Good evening, everybody. I am reaching out to you later than I was expecting, but I'm very happy to be back. Very happy that you are listening, if you can hear this. And we're going to take a minute to just kind of get reacquainted. There's going to be two things that I need to do. Number one, I want to try and fill everyone in with why I had a little bit longer, I had a little bit of a longer absence from stream than I had planned. And then I also need to find out what on earth I'm doing. It has been a while since I've played this particular session, so it's going to take a bit of time to get familiar. But I have been looking forward to this. So for those of you who didn't know that I was going to be away, I was going to be I basically wasn't going to be able to stream for the better part of this week. So, in addition to the fact that there's the local game dev meetup on Wednesday, I actually was out of the country. So this was something that was planned. And I knew it was going to be coming up, so I tried to telegraph that as much in advance as possible. There's always the question as to whether or not things are actually going to turn out, but it's pretty clear that I was not going to be here. Let me just make sure. 13th. So there was that, and then where my original plan was that I was going to be streaming last Friday, and I did not. So that one was a little complicated. Essentially, what it kind of came down to was I had to work later than expected. Didn't have to, but I did wind up working later than expected. There was a sort of shutdown on the local transit, so I had to sort of get off at a different station. It was pretty clear that I was going to be running very late. And then what I decided to do to try and save some time, I just kind of went to a diner to try and get something to eat. That wound up taking longer than expected. And then when I got to the apartment, I was already sort of questioning, how much time I really had. But when I finally got to actually go to start the stream, there was basically I was getting some connectivity problems with the computer, which is fine. Normally resetting the router and all of that sorts it out. So did that. Another delay, but not a really long one. And I'm just getting some weird stuff, like just basically sites are hit or miss in terms of opening or whatever. Not limited to just this desktop. I was looking at the laptop as well. I was kind of under the illusion that there wasn't really a problem because my mobile was working fine, but what I didn't realize was my mobile had actually switched to the cell provider. So once I had sort of figured that out, I kind of just did a last resort. It's like, okay, let's just run the test on Twitch, because Twitch will actually give you a health, and there was just no way I was getting a stable connection. So if I'm completely honest, I'm sure I could have resolved it in the evening. It's one of these things, I've run into it before. It's not completely unsolvable in all cases, but it was really at that point where it's like, okay, so it's probably going to be 5 a.m. when I finish. Maybe not that late, but it was definitely very hard for me to justify the the effort that it would take to do the stream when in reality, especially with a salon coming up, essentially what I would be doing is I would be streaming many hours after the time that I normally finish for an event that I think people were kind of interested in seeing, the salon. And it just didn't really feel like the sort of thing, I try and push through the feeling of not feeling up to streaming. The worry has always been not that I'm going to miss the one stream. I think that's completely forgivable. But the worry is that it becomes a little bit easier to skip the next stream. And then, at that point you start asking the question, it's like, okay, but, at what point do I tell the people who are subscribing, you're not going to get your money's worth? So at that point, I sort of said, like I said, I'm always a little, I do feel quite conscious about, oh man, what is this? I'm gonna have to read this again to find out what the contents are about. But yeah, anyways, so long story. Oh, hey, Astiani, we're just getting started, actually. I know you've been streaming this for a while. Hello, everybody from Astiani's stream. I did finally get a chance to peek in, although not say hi. Is there anybody here who doesn't know this broadcaster? I'm happy to do the shout out, but it feels a little silly. So I think the last thing I saw you play wasn't necessarily Book of Hours, other than seeing that you were playing that on stream tonight, but I think you were doing Factorio recently, weren't you? Anyways, for those of you, I just, on the odd chance that there's somebody from my side in here, Astiani has been a wonderful chatter during the Book of Hours streams, but what I did not realize was that they're also a broadcaster. And in fact, I've been doing Book of Hours tonight of all times, but definitely somebody I would want to recommend to check out, especially for those of you who have found that maybe my hours are getting a little too inconsistent to have fun with it. I definitely want to try and talk up people who do Book of Hours, and I actually believe you've historically done Cultist Simulator as well. How you doing, Golden WH and Gummy Bread? Nice emote. Whose emote is that? Oh, it's one of our hosts. You've been doing Factorio on Tuesdays and Book of Hours on Fridays lately. Wonderful. I really do want to watch one of your Factorio streams in depth, because I own it, but I never really engage very deeply with it. And it's not even that I dislike it. It's just there's only so much time in the day. So, all right, if you can just give me a second here, I'm going to do a quick sip of tea. I'm going to finish giving my excuses for why I wasn't streaming last week, and then we'll talk about sort of the plan for the day, because I'm going to need a minute just to review my my notes and see what's going on. Hey, all right, I'm getting a good idea of the emotes here now. Golden WH, I notice here we've got a Golden 80 MG. So does this mean you're a broadcaster as well? If so, what do you stream? Okay, so anyways, long story short, it seemed that the best call last week, once I hit a certain point of catastrophe, I figured I would just I'd leave it. I probably needed some proper sleep anyway, just so I could get ready for the trip and to do some recording for the YouTube videos. And then essentially that takes me to the absences on Monday and Wednesday, which were planned, again, out of the country. Not really a way that I can stream unless I'm going to do some sort of walk and talk through the mobile app, which I haven't done in a while. And now we are here. Does stream sometimes. Theoretically, you are a broadcaster, but you haven't streamed in a while. But TTRPG stuff, Factorio, Dark Souls. So out of curiosity, when you say TTRPG, I'm assuming that's like actual physical. Do you have a system or setting or rule set that you prefer? Because I admire TTRPG, but I always like to say that it's a discrimination against the lonely. Hey, Zero Degree, good to see you. I've missed your animated welcomes. All right, so on my to-do list, we've got the Salon, we've got, it says keep lesson. The hell was I thinking when I wrote that? All right, let me just take a quick second here and see if we're working on anything. Oh, I think I remember. We went through a Numa recently, so I bet, yeah, we need to keep the lesson of many facets. Cool, okay. So there's that. Sorry, I'm just catching up on my notes to sell. I really like that I started doing this. Book of Masks to Madame Bichet, so we knew that. Kukabit Prisoner Records 1927 to Connie. And then I believe with Arthur Moore, we didn't have any options in terms of following up, but we'll see how that goes. So that's the plan. We've actually already got everything in place for the salon, but we do want to see what happens in the affair of the unfinished lark, speaking of Azita. And then, yeah, I don't know if we'll do the salon today or another day, but I'm happy to play it by ear on that front. Although it may not be a bad idea for me to try and make some money, maybe? All right, let me catch up on the... let me catch up on a little bit of chat. So, kind of waiting on a new rig because you want to be able to host VTuber bodies for your guests. Oh, so multiple VTuber bodies. I'm assuming that's probably going to require quite a bit of processing power then. And you were disappointed with your salons tonight. You invited Azita and Yvette twice because in the last salon they were flirting with each other and they didn't flirt at all this time. Now, is that because you did... I've had this happen a couple of times where I've been trying to force interactions and I've been doing a big salon like this. So I've got the 5 different encounters. Or were you hosting a nice little Gullscry Logia encounter to try and force the follow-up? And Golden says you run all kinds of games. A lot of these I'm unfamiliar. Anything but D&D, basically. Fate, Dresden File, Nobilis, Wild Talent, Superheroes, Shadowrun. I'm definitely familiar with Shadowrun. I definitely like Jordan Wiseman. Actually, Jordan Wiseman was talking up his son's game most recently. There was a Kickstarter for that. I didn't really back it or anything like that, but I thought it was really, really cool to see that there's now a second generation of Wiseman's designing games and designing them at a high level. Tokyo Brain Pop, what a name, Japanese psychic horror, and you write a few of your own games such as Sailor Moon and Friarbands Hack. That's really interesting, and I don't know if you care much for the secret history setting, but I believe there is a user called Threepwood who has been working on a proper... when I say proper, I should maybe clarify what I mean by that, because I'm definitely not intending to throw shade at the developers for their experience. But I believe a community member named Threepwood has been working on a Secret Histories tabletop RPG. And there is actually a tabletop experience that is designed by the creators of this game. I think Lottie Bevan actually was the primary author of that one. It's called The Lady Afterwards, but I think it's intended more as sort of a one-off scenario. And so I've had a couple of reactions which sort of say that they were really hoping for a big source book to sort of, give you lots of details in terms of the setting and such. And I think probably what their intentions in making that more were, it comes as like this, there's this beautiful, I've got actually a copy now. There's like this nice wooden box and there's like a scented candle and a playlist and all the stuff that comes with it. And sort of the idea is you kind of treat it a little bit like one of those Evening of Murder kind of setups. And I think one thing that's really neat about that is that it's a way of doing an RPG for people who might not normally say that they're into RPGs. And of course, it's an interesting setting. It takes place in Alexandria, which is a significant setting significant city in the Secret Histories. It's also just a very interesting city on its own. So overall, I just think it's a really neat idea for a game, but I also know if you're kind of going in expecting a big source book of lots of information, that's potentially there's going to be a conflict in terms of the expectations versus what you get. So in any case, because you say that you are a bit of a developer of TTRPGs yourself, as well as a connoisseur, I thought I would at least let you know not only about the existing Secret Histories product, The Lady Afterwards, available on the Etsy store, but also a community-driven one, because I think the Six History license is a really interesting thing that Weather Factory does, and it allows for cool creations like Threepwood's setting. You've thought about doing something in this setting. I played Cultist recently, and you definitely riffed a lot of this. I'm more likely to work on a game off of... I think you mean probably Sunless Skies and Sunless Seas, right? The ones that... there was Fail Better which the designer of this one founded. So Sunless Seas was the game that he was designer on. Sunless Skies, I think, probably might get a early development credit or something like that, but I know he wasn't involved with the follow-up. Okay, cool, yeah. That's all good. No, because if there's a Shattered Skies and Shattered Seeds, I kind of want to see that too. But you have some failed game design issues in the past that you abandoned because there weren't enough conflict, but these games are not centered on player versus world conflict too much. Fallen Lending Study, thank you. And you've definitely cribbed a lot from Secret Histories when you dig into old occult stuff in TTRPGs. That's really neat. I mean, it's nice. I think the subreddit has quite a few people who have either adapted this to existing settings or have been working on settings of their own. It's definitely a world that I only observe, like I'm an observer to. I kind of see it from the outside as opposed to can really speak to the merits of the material. But it's a little bit like the reason why I go to the local game dev meetups is that not everything that I see is going to sort of knock my socks off. Some of it is going to be something that maybe even I just straight up don't like. That maybe, it's something that I can't make sense of. It's something that is weird. It's something that's unpolished. But the thing is that the point there isn't to, sit in judgment of the other works. It's there to see what's going on, see what's new, see what other people are doing. And, I always sort of feel like for the experiments that aren't very successful, you absolutely do not need to spend any time thinking about them at all. In fact, if the only thing that you're thinking are negative thoughts, it's probably better to just move on from them. But what you save, those are a very, very low cost kind of encounter. But what you gain is the opportunity to see something really special or really unique. It's how I originally found the Secret History setting through Cultist Simulator. Just kind of taking a bit of a flyer on an experimental game that seemed kind of interesting. And, I really like that there is just more of that around in general, right? That if you go into any given community, you're probably going to find a couple of people doing something with it. And again, the Six History setting is something that really does allow people to run with creations like this and also see a little bit of financial reward for it if they make something that people like. All right, I am going to hit the unpause button now. No, I'm not. I'm going to use the whist and then I'm going to unpause. So we'll see the weather, we'll see what the result of current affairs is, and then we will debate on whether or not we do... Oh, actually, you know what? There's probably not going to be weather because the Salon finished. Yep! Yep, my good man. I was in your country recently. Always lovely to see you. How are you doing, my friend? We are still on Book of Hours, but we are about to enjoy, whether today or tomorrow, a Salon. And I don't know if you've seen one of those yet. For those of you who don't know, Yip is actually somebody I've known almost as long as I've been on Twitch. Somebody who I believe I got to co-cast a couple of things with, but somebody who is definitely a lot of fun to hang around. A philosophical and interesting soul. Definitely somebody whose name I'm always happy to see inside of the channel. And of course, also happy to see subscribed. Gotta pay the bills somehow. Anyways, wonderful to see you. How are you doing tonight? Something rare. Crack open the container. Delight in your discovery. So one of the tricky parts of today is going to be to remember to hang on to the lesson of many facets until the Salon starts. Or sorry, not starts, but until the Salon is done. The reason we're doing that is I want to, where I can, I want to hang on to the option to level up certain things. So what I mean by that is, aha. Magister Hokebald. So if I want, I could actually invite him for I could invite him for dinner, but we're not going to do that. You are doing terrible, but you're pulling out all the self-care. You came here to lurk and ease myself into your voice in my playthrough. Well, yep, definitely. Yeah, I have all sorts of sympathy. My DMs are always open, right? I know you should have me on Discord, but if you want to send anything on Twitch, if you ever want to chat, just let me know. But rather than drag you out on stuff that's going on, I am very happy to send you off into a weird and wonderful world of the secret histories. We are, like I said, about to see some interesting stuff coming up. But again, all the best for you. I love the fact that there are people in here who are willing to say they wish the best for you too. A bit of a testament towards Estieni's community. And I will just mention, because I know you weren't here in a little bit earlier, but they are actually also a broadcaster who does this game as well. So let's take a quick second here. Like I said, we're going to, because Hokebald is working on going to be working on the affair of the unfinished Lark, we're going to aim for an afternoon salon. That means that I'm probably going to want to renew the Tryst and the Whist pretty quickly. We've got plenty of actually, I don't... No, the way it currently is, I actually am not going to run out of either, so I shouldn't do that. But we are going to send the invitations off. And the important thing for me to remember, too, is that I don't... excuse me. I do not actually have the salon at the start. I want to make sure that I hand off the books to all of the different people as well. So let's start. I think I'm actually going to start with the invitation to Olympi. Patience, thus the mountain awaits the fall of the snow, thus Monday awaits the death of the weekend, thus the postmistress waits for me to purchase the necessary stamp. Stamp, envelope, send. Is there someone en route to Hush House? Magister Hokebald, metallurgist, gourmet, corrupted immortal, and supposedly a long ago King's byblow. Now, actually, okay, so I do apologize for the long ramp up to getting started. And some of you may have heard this before, but there is a set of secret letters in this, and I don't think Yip has heard this one. And I feel like this is the sort of thing that if I was feeling a bit blue, would put a big smile on my face. So I'm just going to take a quick second here to jump into the folder. There are a few little secrets in here. Let's see if I can pronounce things correctly on this one. Oh, Estieni, yeah, if you have not read this one in particular, this is the first one called Profit and Loss, you are... I think you're going to have a good time with this one. Palazzo Dario, Venice, 15th of October, 1722. Madam, I regret the intemperancy of what must follow, but I write in haste and full wrath. Even now my sleeves are beset with slither slime. You permitted me to bear away from your library that noble book, The History of Inks, for which I have averred and still aver my gratitude. But, madam, you have behaved in a manner inconsonant with professional care. Madam, to the point, I provided myself with a sacred precinct to mix the fifth ink. I set certain protections about the place. I had no wish to be interrupted by robbers or rivals. One of my prominence and noble stature suffers grievously from the envy of lesser practitioners. You must know, madam, that I am an adept of wit and skill, and that these protections were mighty in scope and extent. I warded against worm and storm and bite and sight and the 8 principles in the 400 names. But, madam, I warded not against the pettiest and the meanest. When one takes a lease upon a palace, one expects to bring one's own guard and retainers to protect against uninvited ill-wishers. but one does not expect to deploy ratting cats and mousing terriers for defense against the rodentry. That, madam, is a given. So, madam, I had assumed that as a competent preserver of knowledge, you would place a ward salutiferous to protect against such vermin as raw prophets. Madam, I have taken the necessary time to compose myself, and I will tell the rest but briefly. The raw prophet was drawn to the history of inks, by what I know not. E'en as I turned to fill the kelson, it fell upon the book by the time that I had turned back, and by the time that I had turned back, the book was all but engulfed. I strove mightily against the raw prophet with strength, the great strength of my arms, but raw prophets are flexile creatures, and I won only slime and besmirchment, and intimate assault at no small cost to my dignity. Therefore, madam, I do insist and demand that, first, you abandon all claims upon the history of inks. The book is gone. I do not wish to inquire exactly where, but I imagine within the doings of the raw prophet. Second, that you compensate me for your incompetence. A gift of the second volume of the unexpurgated Deoris will, I suppose, suffice. Thirdly, that you compensate me also for the cleansing of my garments. I attach the bill in full. Yours in honor, Hokebald of Posend. A note on the letter reads, Fine takers dispatched against Magister Hokebald. In case of non-payment, seek full compensatory redress from Society Obliviate. This is exactly the reason why the history of inks is slide. That was a good observation. I was actually going to draw that out, but you did not require me to do that. So I apologize. I still stumble over a couple of the words on it, but that one is a whole lot of fun to read. All right. So the affair of the unfinished lark. For 3 years, the sculptor adept Zuthimilim Zidane has labored at his masterpiece, an abstract sculpture that speaks with the voice of the desert lark, and now, puzzlingly and suddenly, he is dead. What a grim and chilly little country. I hope you've prepared a suitable welcome. If there is an incident card active, you can discuss it, or you can just leave the slot empty and offer a consultation. Now then, this lark business. Zidane's gifts were mediocre at best, but I think I might salvage something from his work. Try a book with as much mystery forge as their forge interest. So in this case, basically, any forge book will do, but let's see if we can make sure, let's see if we can do this at a lower level. So Journal of Walter de Wolf might be the one that I need to... Yeah. Looks like there's no simple forge works. Okay, that'll do. Zidane made use of some unusual materials. If I am to salvage the work, I must understand their properties better. Yes, that will be sufficient. Don't fret, librarian. Here's your little gratuity. Ah, Hokebald. Sorry, we got Rebarber's laughs here. Ah, Hokebald. One day I will find a way to lock him inside the same room as Julian Cosley as Vengeance. For those of you that don't know, by the way, I do have a very specific plan for my salon. So I have not yet invited Reverend Timothy, and the reason for that is I very specifically want to put Reverend Timothy next to Hokebald for the first time, so I have not invited either of them to dinner yet. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. All right, on to the next letter. So Connie will be the next person that we give a book to. So stamp, envelope, send. All right. Next batch, it's I will do Arthur Moore just because technically we would give a book to them if we could, but I don't think we actually have what Arthur Moore is looking for. So the idea here is this just gives us a chance to get a couple of things sorted while the rest of the guests are arriving. Honestly, 5 seconds is not that big of a lead-in, but every little bit helps, right? So Zachary Wakefield next. And finally, a very weary detective. Stamp, envelope, send. So the timing with Hokebald will work just in time to talk with Mademoiselle Olympie Bichet. Crack open the container. Delight in your discovery. Hallowed anthropoderm. Yes, it's human skin, but it's not just human skin. I would not normally have associated human skin with a whomp sound, but there you have it. Now, I'm just going to take a quick second here. So, I have someone who's running through the first... I have somebody who's kind of running through their very first playthrough of Book of Hours, and I've made little bits of progress here and there on some of the more interesting things, but I don't necessarily want to draw a whole lot of attention to certain items. Again, I'm not going to like completely rework the entire playthrough just to avoid, any kind of revelation or anything like that. But where I can, if I can do some stuff on my own time, I kind of want to take the opportunity. So one of the reasons why I'm saying this now is that we have, I'm pretty sure it's Glimmerings, an anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the Kukurbit. Also, I will just say here, I'm going to find a treasure of the house, which I know I've had access to for a while. So for those of you who, maybe for those of you who do not want to see somebody just so directly get one of those, now might be a good time to, pause the stream or mute or something like that. And if you are doing that and you'd like a notification that, it's good to come back, just let me know in chat, and I'm happy to just type something in chat to make sure that the surprise can be preserved for people. It's not a huge deal in my opinion, but I figured I'd give people that option. If nobody says anything in chat, then I'm not going to get that notification. But if somebody says, yeah, just let me know when you're done, I'm happy to do that. And I'll just take a couple of seconds here to let people have the option. But I'm not going to sit and wait the whole time. What I will say, though, is we did make a mushroom meringue. What in the Wolf Divided's most splintered name hath here been wrought? And apparently it gives fear if you consume it, which I also like. All right. So, in Glimmerings, we have the... actually, I think this will be one case where I take advantage of the wiki. There's a few different ways that you can find this, but I tend to find Glimmerings is probably the most direct way for this particular item. So, Glimmerings, an anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the Kukurbit. When you read the book, the first... I don't know if it works on pickled mushrooms or not. I know there was a change in terms of the pickling, but I don't know if the pickled mushrooms work with the meringue anymore. I guess we could try, but... So, reading the book, we've got the prisoner is plainly terrified and bewildered by their situation and has been unable to wrangle a coherent explanation out of anyone, but the dreams keep coming and they keep writing them down. And then the second passage, snow, broken mirrors, half-heard sky music, flowers of white, red, and black, a blood-streaked winter dawn, the most notorious signifiers of oniric risk, fantastically vivid and detailed. No wonder they were locked up. Their final recorded dream is of a worm jewel beneath Brandkrug Isle, which they opened with a key carved from their finger bone. So that last part is the real tell. But there's a couple of other things that you can get in terms of detail. So we read here the Rowanarium. There was once a brother and sister who loved each other greatly. They resolved that they were one soul split into two bodies, and their greatest wish was to become one. They found the hidden isle where the twins, the sister and witch, had arrived when they crossed the great ocean, and a sacred pool on which the moon shone only once a year. There they spoke with the twins in dreams, and they learnt how they might become conjoined as one flesh and immortal. Now the brother's resolution failed him, and though he loved his sister, he could not choose to spend eternity joined in one flesh. The sister could not persuade him, and she would not abandon him or force him. So they used their arts to live long lives, close but separate, and they made a double foundation of monks and nuns, as chaste as they had always been, but each nun had her brother twin, and none could enter alone. In time, the sister found her own immortality, and to this day she walks the world by moonlight. The brother died, and his bones are buried in the room beneath the well, but his children live on. So, here we have the Rowanarium itself. Rowena the Legion, protectress of the house, holds the mayor's key of Wormstone, which opens the door to nowhere. Now and then she has lent it unwisely, but only once has she lent it to Ys. And if you look, there is a key in one of the slots. So this you can also sometimes get just by taking a look at the items. That key, that part of the soul called Shapt, is left outside the white door of the Mansis as a key in the door, or a sword outside a king's hall if you listen to the Noble Endeavor. And so, the only thing that has a key aspect right now, reveal a treasure of the house if I insert a sufficient key. The postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, I've never wanted to like completely halt a stream just to avoid talking about it. I think you can still enjoy the game even if you haven't found these on your own, but obviously it can be. There was one at the very bottom of the house which actually I didn't find in my first playthrough, and I was really intrigued when I found just a little tiny chink in the armor that finally allowed me to get it. But it's definitely a lot of fun. And Golden, by the way, I do apologize for not reading aloud every single one of your messages. I am reading them myself, but it also sort of feels they're a little more direct. So I always want to be a little conscious of the fact that I don't want to come off as disinterested or deliberately sort of pushing someone off. I just don't always have something to respond to those. So I figured, just in case it felt like I was reading everybody's messages but yours, I was only reading aloud so that I could have some context when there's a VOD for this. No, it's not. I don't think it's rude at all. I actually like it when people are encountering with each other, especially because a lot of this is about this game, right? So I don't want to monopolize everything in terms of material on the game, because I think everybody has their own side of it. But I was just a little conscious of the fact that there was probably about 3 messages in a row now that you've said where I didn't read them aloud, and I always try to keep in mind how things might come off, even if I don't intend them that way. So please do not take that as a gentle admonishment. I think what the conversation you're having is very interesting, and as long as everybody wants to participate, I'd like to encourage you to keep doing that. All right, Hokabald's got his reading. And now we can read the update to the Affair of the Unfinished Lark. So, first of all, Morgan, Mademoiselle Matutine, hoped to... Wait a minute. I think I've got this the wrong way around. Let me just double check the abbreviations. Oh, it is Madame. Yeah, so it is Madame Bichet and Mademoiselle Matutine. I got it completely reversed. Mademoiselle Matutine had hoped to complete Zidane's work, and at Hush House, or so she believed, she found what she needed to do so. Whatever Dr. Blackwood found at Hush House had convinced her that Zidane had used Ys metal in his work. Azita believed that Zidane had been murdered, and, after investigating possible motives, speculated that he had been eavesdropping at the keyholes of heaven. Magister Hokebald planned to salvage Zidane's work when it was, as he hoped, sold for scrap. All right, Madame Olympie Bichet, essayist, illustrator, critic, editor of the Karashim Review. Now, before we do anything, there are the further stories. So here we have the Egg of the Dune. The vagabond, along with 2 other hours, proposes to challenge Calyptra with a flower that is neither black nor white. To that end, she has called on an old alliance with the Carapace Cross. So we can assist Aladim, we can assist Aaron, we can assist Dagmar, or we can assist Olympie. Now, we decided that we were going to assist Olympie, but we need a little bit more here, so... Dappled roses are weapons against Calyptra, a weapon made for the vagabond and her allies among the hours. Now the vagabond is calling on old alliances to strengthen her hand. Olympie would happily see Calyptra weakened, but the alliance with the Carapace Cross has her worried. The vagabond is one of the hour's friendliest to humankind. If she recruits the cross to tend her weapons, if she has less use for us, I fear she might become less kindly inclined to us. I'd like to discourage this alliance, librarian. Please, give me anything you have on Maya. Tiberiosity, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Tiberiosity is another streamer, and I believe not just another streamer, but another Canadian streamer. Here to lurk, so have a fun time with the book? Absolutely. I know I lurk a lot more in your stream than you talk in mine, so always happy to have you here, and I hope you have a good time lurking, but I always appreciate you stopping by. I hope you are well, because I know I haven't said hi in a while, but then that's true for everyone, because I blew it on getting the stream done on time. All right, I'm a little curious to see whether or not the mushroom meringue is a thing. So add to milk for a legendary dessert, or with spicing. Add to apples or pears, or even to mushrooms if you're feeling perverse. So we've got pickled mushrooms here, and if we add the spicing, I can just use spices and savors for that. I can just use spices and savors for that. Just spices and savors. Here somewhere. I am tired. All right. Right here. Interesting. So yeah, it doesn't work with pickled mushrooms. You've got snow? Oh my... I am sorry to hear that, Tiberiosity. Alright, let's restore some whist while we can. I think we're supposed to get like a centimeter today, but... Alright. So one of the things that's a little tricky with the further stories is the... 2 feet, good lord. Yeah, so one of the things that's a little tricky with the further stories is that you do actually need, when you bring a book in, so far as I can tell, you have to have it in your inventory. So we'll put the water on the maps. Play dangerously. Okay, so Olympie. Return next day. Interesting. Oh, that's gonna blow it for my my salon, though. Well, that's fine because we can keep people overnight. All right, now the Connie one is really interesting here. So MCO Constance Lee, Connie has risen swiftly in the Suppression Bureau to the exalted rank of Constable Oculate Minor. Don't get in her way. So just for context here, I know I'm going to have to jump out to get the other business. I think this one's a really interesting one. So the Insinuating Filaments. The business at Gladwin Lake was the work of the Ostorium, a noble institution that preserves what would not otherwise be preserved, or a creepy pack of Peruvian fungus wizards, depending on preference. Intentionally or not, this has brought the Ostorium and the Suppression Bureau into a new alliance, to the great unhappiness of Connie Lee. Help Connie decide. I'm thinking about resigning. There are always compromises at this level, but this is a new kind of compromise. On the other hand, if I stay, I can make a difference. If I leave, I give up that power. Librarian, if you have something on the Bureau's history, achievements, triumphs, mistakes, some books will convince Connie to stay, others will convince her to leave the Bureau and, indeed, the game. So I thought this was kind of an interesting one because unlike some of the other encounters, there is actually less to indicate to you in terms of what the what the consequence is going to be. Because the Bureau, again, we talk about compromises, there are going to be sort of different interpretations in terms of some of the Bureau's acts. And I don't even think we have all of the Bureau's material here. There's definitely a secret book, which I've definitely gotten on stream, but I haven't done this time around. But in terms of the different books that I can use, I can never remember. There's the one on the different kinds of Risen. Might be in this one. No. Oh, here it is. All right. An Exorcist Field Manual, a practical guide to troublesome dead, grounded in theory, but with a clear focus on their disposal by the redoubtable detective Ostiary Wheellock of the Suppression Bureau. Right? So this has a Suppression Bureau connection. This would be something Connie might be interested in. How you doing, Vanguard Master? On top of that, we may not even have all the volumes of the Kukavit prisoner records. Yeah, because there's a 1928 as well. Excuse me. Perishing. No, I just got doing all right. I was traveling earlier this week. I'm back, and it's the first time I've streamed in a week, so I'm actually really enjoying being back with Book of Hours, although I may get myself some more tea if I'm hacking up a lung. Maybe do that just before the salon. So actually, it may just be that we only have a second book. I'm not going to scour the library just for this, but in this case, Kukabit Prisoner Records, 1927. Actually, you know what? Let's just, I'll get the text from the wiki as well. I don't normally like going to the wiki, but in this case, it kind of helps to reference the, just because I'm trying to, how do I put it? I'm trying to explain my reasoning behind a couple of things, and I don't really want to sit down and read the book just for the sake of the like reiterating something I already know. So okay, Kukabit Prisoner Records, 1927. Accounts by Governor Collar's private secretary of interventions and experiments in the last years of the Kukabit prison, focusing particularly on prisoners he believes might have Carapace Cross lineage. 2 prisoners suspected of oniric crimes are excuse me, are encouraged to access their inner carapace cross tendencies and develop attributes of the Segles kind, sickle-formed pseudocrustacea. Regrettably, they lose the ability to breathe air. One dies, and Collars releases the other into the sea. Collars describes how he successfully induced an unstable Carabus larva to develop into a greater form using insects and nectars techniques in the context of considerable moon aspect to awaken what would rather remain hidden. He hopes that similar techniques might be used to expedite the moral development of prisoners. So, what's interesting about this one to me is that this, I think, is as close... How do I put this? I think this is about as close as I can get to the balanced view of Collars. So I realize a lot of people don't care that much for Collars, and that's fine because he's the unappreciated hero of Book of Hours. But the thing here is that I think this book, out of all of them, gives an account in terms of the consequences, the mistakes, right? There's somebody who has died as a result of these experiments. But also the fact that he, it gives an indication of what his intentions are, and also the fact that he releases the other to an environment where they, where they can survive. So I sort of feel, because I don't necessarily want to push Connie down a particular path, but I do want to inform her, out of the books that are available to me right now, this kind of seems to be the closest. And I don't really know what the consequence of that is going to be, which is the other reason I'm kind of interested in this one. And of course, this is a game that I intend to play a few times around, so we'll definitely check out some other conclusions for this further story. But I think I've settled on the Kukurbit Prisoner Records 1927, and we'll see what Connie decides as a result. So, once more, the insinuating filaments. The business at Gladwin Lake was the work of the Ostorium, a noble institution that preserves what would not otherwise be preserved, or a creepy pack of Peruvian fungus wizards depending on preference. Intentionally or not, this has brought the Ostorium and the Suppression Bureau into a new alliance, to the great unhappiness of Connie Lee. I'm thinking about resigning. There are always compromises at this level, but this is a new kind of compromise. On the other hand, if I stay, I can make a difference. If I leave, I give up that power. Librarian, if you have something on the Bureau's history, achievements, triumphs, mistakes, return the next day. Okay. So, because we need to wait for the next day, I don't want to waste these 3 invitations. I will make sure that I have beds for everybody, and then I'm going to spend the day as if I was doing my usual tasks. So, quick run to Crowcross Sands. I'm trying to think if there is a sensible path for me to try and open any of these different rooms. Not really right now. I don't think I'm completely without options, but I don't know if it's really something I want to try and do right now. So maybe what I'll do instead, I'm going to see if I've got I should have a list of persistent memories that oh, sorry. Getting a notification for, okay. Okay. What else? Sorry, I set a bunch of reminders for today to... There we go. Yeah, no worries. I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I How do I put it? I'll let you know when we do the other half on this, because it turns out we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait about a day to get the results. Of course, I guess if Connie leaves, I'm going to have to find another guest. Okay. So, yes, sorry. I was spending my time looking at my notes here. What I really want to do... I thought I had a list of persistent memories that I got. Yes, I do. Okay, so Old Wound, Enduring Reflection, Ascendant Harmony, Hive's Lament, Curious Hunch. All sorts of good stuff. So, let's get some of the basics down. Old Wound. Explore an old wound to awaken the violent resonances within. Don't remember. I think Enduring Reflections I need a memory for. So, time with the beastie. Offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. While I'm at it, we can also visit the Gull Colony. I can drop some water. I can also do some beekeeping. We'll do some gardening as well soon, but actually, yeah, we're getting close to winter, so I should probably work on that sooner rather than later. What else? Let's see what music I can make. Let's maybe leave the drum. Actually, if I use the Pale Desk, a few options. That's not it, though. Sights and Sensations, I don't think gets me quite what I need. Huh. I've really under-leveled some of my music options. Oh, excuse me. Applewhite Euphonies should be good, though. Yeah, so an Ascendant Harmony gets me a good start. I should probably be taking some notes here, so... So Old Wound, Ascendant Harmony. I think we're getting a Horizon Sight before too long. Earth Sign and Occult Scrap are two really easy ones for me to get, so we'll take the newspaper. And then the Earth Sign. Okay, and I can't remember where I had Drums and Dances. We're at level 5, so it's not impossible, but I think we're a little short on what I need for something interesting. The Thunderskins Paean. Alright, well, if we add a second core here, it's not my favorite choice, but it does do the trick. And if I wanted to try and go for a big nectar thing, I think I'm coming up short. So yeah, let's just grab a couple core and work with what remains. So, sorry, that was... Oh, I actually don't even have that on the list, so it may not actually be one that I can keep. My bad. That's what I get for being impatient. All right. I think that's it, unless I want to start generating some memories, which maybe that's something I want to do. But let's take the time to do some gardening now. So it will not be a bad idea for me to get some... Well, actually, you know what? We've got more than enough in terms of vegetables. Let's get the honey scar jasmine instead. And maybe we can do... Fragrant pears soft in the hand. Okay. We still have the core available. Yeah, you know what? Let's go nuts. Oh, you know what I forgot to do, though? I should have grabbed... Oh, no, we don't have sea holly, so never mind. Shouldn't have grabbed nothing. Now... What I need to think about right now is how I want to use the lessons that I get out of this stuff. But the thing is that that's a lot better for me to do after a salon, because Yeah, so my feeling on this one is that if I wait until after the salon, I know what lessons I got, and then I'm going to be able to know whether or not I need something like Watchman's Paradoxes to get myself further along the path. So I think even if it means that I underutilize my Elements of the Soul, I still think it's the better option. The only other thing I can think of would be, it'd be kind of nice to... it'd be just kind of nice to make stuff. So more Armament Exultant, for instance, is something that wouldn't hurt. So maybe what I do here, we take the Iotic Essence, add the metal. I think Transformations and Liberations is my best here, so that's going to create a little awkwardness. So what I was originally going to do is just try and take another forge to turn at the foundry to basically make the Armament Exultant, but I'm coming up short here. So my next best, we'll take the Shapt and maybe Edict's Liminal. Nope, that's a secret threshold. Ah, one of you makes an Amethyst Ampule. There we go. We can probably do the same at the dispensary. Glass blowing and vessel crafting. Yep, that works. I noticed that there's some Eigengrau here that wouldn't... I don't know, we got 3 of it, so it's a little hard for me to justify making more. Maybe we just give it a rest and let the day go by. Okay, did Arthur Moore receive my invitation? Actually, Estiani, there is one other option. There's one other further story that I'm going to work with. I'm just going to take a minute to read the values for it, because I don't think I'm actually going to be able to do anything with it. but I am going to be taking a look at Arthur Moore's further story. So if you want me to write something in chat to let you know it's safe, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm going to try and commit to not spend more than 5 minutes on it. But I leave it to your judgment. If you want me to write something in chat, just say so, and I can give you a signal. Or, you know, I take a while, so you're not going to miss too much if you just go. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so for those of you who are still with me, this is the Labyrinth's prisoner. Lieutenant Moore has made Abecassis, the altered Labite, a prisoner of the Labyrinth. Abecassis has been suckling from Echidna, the mother of monsters, and Echidna has been angered by his cow. Sorry if you're still in here, Estiani. Yeah, I'm going to be reading Arthur's thing right now, so run for your lives! I mean, that's generally how I live my life, justice for to all. Okay, so resolve Arthur's predicament. Help. Perhaps you can share work on Coil and Chasm, 12. Or might you know where I can find the Darcy Evers reworking of De Oris? Not just the reprint. I have an idea. Give Arthur the information he needs, or enable Echidna's revenge by bringing Echidna to meet with Arthur, retiring Arthur permanently. So actually, I'd forgotten there's Darcy Evers reworking of De Oris, not just the reprint. So this might be a book, a payment, a language, or something else to help fulfill a visitor's needs. Clearly a book or a visitor in this case. So the De Oris was the tricky one. So I mean, one thing I could attempt here, just to give an example, although I will maybe save... just in case I do something wrong. So my understanding is the version of De Oris that I have... Oh, hang on. It's Debellus Murorum I have. I may not even have any De Oris. Well, I'll be. I wasn't even thinking of the right book, as it turns out. All right, well, that makes that even easier. But what I didn't appreciate at the time was that I did, in fact, have something that I could use with Arthur Moore. It's probably a little late in the day for me to be able to do this, but let's give this a shot. So, I need a place that will accept scale. Vagabond Desk does the trick. So here I'm going to do something kind of wacky. So we're going to take the ink here, then we take Coil and Chasm. And I want to brew an ink. I want to write something. That aside. So the funny thing is I don't think you can actually use other papers. I think you really do need to use the sheaf of paper, which I apparently didn't buy for this room. Okay, so maybe we will use the one in this. Oh, hang on. Yeah, no, I can only do that. All right, so write a Coil and Chasm manuscript. Knowledge pursued through Paper's Labyrinth, pinned with ink darts. This manuscript will satisfy scale and Coil and Chasm interest from visitors. Skill level will determine the manuscript quality, but books have souls too. Using an ink with scale aspect will effectively double your skill. Oh, it only takes a minute. All right. So we still have some hope of helping Arthur. So Zachary, we're going to try and keep in the Zachary in the house through sleep, and then we'll do the same for D.I. Moore, Detective Illuminate of the Suppression Bureau, a stoic but weary fellow. His dearest wish is to move to Chingford and grow roses, but the buggers won't let him retire. Alright, now that key that we put in the Rowanarium. It is very hard, among the reflections of the Rowanarium, to understand what exactly or who has just opened, but I can see very clearly what has been revealed. Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, 2nd edition, or The Refinements of Light, Julian Cosley had never wanted or expected to write a 2nd edition of his masterwork. This book houses a Newman, a truth so powerful it can perhaps believe itself. Alright, so I need to drop some stuff off at the bridge. And I'm going to come up with a slightly different division for the books and scrolls and such. Let's see if we can reach Brankrug Village by the end of the playthrough. Alright. So, unread, read, read, unread, unread, unread. What else do I want to do? At some point, I'd probably like to use some of this blue crown and such to make more Solomon's preparation, but I don't think we're in the right spot for that. A yellowing newspaper. It's dated the year that Hush House was abandoned. Nothing's history when first it happens. Secret histories are layered beneath the one we know, like the notes in a rare wine. The librarian knows this well. So at this point, we're really just waiting for a lot of this stuff to wrap up. I'd like to make more over the course of the day if I can, but right now we want to just clear out as much of the work as we can. Oh, I did say I was going to take a look at what different room could house different occupants. So I think it's Hart for all of the infirmary. So I guess the easy one here would be there's Solomon's bed, which would take Wakefield. I'm a little curious as to where we might house D.I. Moore, though. Oh, well, if it's Hart, then presumably we could put him up in one of the infirmary beds. Yeah. Now, Edge or Lantern beds are another matter. Although he might get tied up. All right, Edge is covered. Yeah, so I think we've got what we need. Better now. So let's just keep using this to make money. Again, different plans for the day, but not terrible ones. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. Horizon sight. On a clear autumn day, the story goes, you can see Ys from the Watchman's Tower. I don't know whether that's true, but on a clear day in Numa, you would see the city unbuilt. Dr. Brian Levinson. Okay, let's see. First of all, I'm going to see if I can feed the Stimfling, but I also think it might not be a bad idea for me to just get an egg from the chickens and feed them that. Actually, no, that's silly because I already have so many pilchard and mackerel. Can I feed you the serpent? No. Feed the beastie, satisfy this creature's appetite. Hungry Stimfling hissing avidly. All right, De Rashu Quercum. In English, this title translates roughly as The Account of the Oaks, but this is Nathaniel Darcy Evers' fascinating, if haphazard, survey of the occult properties of every tree he can find, not just oaks. In Persia, Taxus baccata, the yew, is called Sorkdar, which is the red tree. There they had long understood the Grail root. In later times, the great king of Pontus had beehives set in the branches of the oldest of the female trees. The berries of the Pontine yew open the door to death, but the honey of their flowers opens a different door entirely. This was not the great king's Mithridate, but one who has suckled at the great yew fears poison no longer. Perhaps they should. Nathaniel is here distracted, however, by the toxic properties of certain inks. He does mention more usefully that the minor ink of power yew gall can be brewed through the rites of the roots with the assistant of the aspect nectar. If you can just bear with me a second, I need to set something. Okay. There is the earth sign that we needed. In the tracks of beasts and the convulsions of his own carapace, in egg vein and shell shadow, the many-eyed one found the signs which can be history. An earth sign is an auspice traced on the cloaked shape of the earth, perceptible to the sensitive, interpreted only by the wise. Right, craft an amethyst ampule. It has its uses, but none of them are simple and few are safe. Amethyst ampule, were it released from the glass, it would be quite another color. Two of them. Another thing I should probably be working on is healing the 3 books that I haven't handled yet. And move gingerly while the pain lasts. Now, it seems to me like we can probably do either a Wormwood Dream or a... So I guess the Wormwood Dream still needs a memory, so in that case... I guess any old memory will do, so craft the Wormwood Dream, recall a forgotten crime of moon and winter. And what I will do there... because I still want the... I still want the... not fetch. I still want the occult scrap. We'll just read the newspaper again. With appropriate ink, the process is more effective. And here's my Coil and Chasm manuscript. Here I recorded my thoughts on Coil and Chasm. Now this is actually the second manuscript that we've made. We also wrote one on Horns and Ivories. I have to find another place for the flowers. So this lovely little thing has an 18 scale mystery. So, SGNE, I realize we have been really testing your patience if you have been waiting for the Labyrinth of Lions to finish. But just a fair warning, I'm going to be trying to advance Arthur Moore's story here. So, Lieutenant Moore has made Abecassis, the Altered Labite, a prisoner of the Labyrinth. Abecassis has been suckling from Echidna, the mother of monsters, and Echidna has been angered by his capture. Help. Help? Perhaps if you can share a work on Coil and Okay, cool. Perhaps if you can share a work on Coil and Chasm, or might you know where I can find the Darcy Evers reworking of the Deoris? Not just the reprint, I have an idea. I forgot to bring my book, though, so... So I actually wasn't expecting to get 3 of these handled, but... Return the next day. So now we just need to keep Wakefield and D.I. Moore in the area. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. So I'm going to do two things with that. And Nothring's history when it's written. With Keeper level Heart, the Paean is a precursor to Swaddled Thunder, so this is not a persistent memory, so I could try to make the Swaddled Thunder, but I don't actually think I have what it takes. Unexpected folds in Earth and Sky. Sorry, unexpected finds in the folds of Earth and Sky. Granite slab, long cold volcano blood. Whispering sand, white silver sand in which the voice of the waves lingers. With Keeper level Sky and Ascendant Harmony might conjure a Didymos, so this is a persistent memory. A bright and ringing music which evokes the blue sweep of the lower heavens. I could also read the description here. The Thunderskin's Paean, a song of joyous sacrifice. Honey Scar Jasmine, sweet-scented night blooming. Fragrant Chalice, a glorious globe of wine-colored flowers. Bowl of sea-blessed pears, smooth as butter and wonderfully juicy. And we got a sound. I'm unlikely to garner much from the hive at this time of year. I probably should have read that ahead of time. And a gull's egg. At Brandkrug, even the hours are kind, and the years are kinder. This egg may still stay viable quite a while yet. So there's definitely a few more things that we can do. Again, we're kind of just letting the day go by at this point. So I'm happy enough to take another crack at the gulls, and then we might as well go back to Crowcross Sands and the moor just to see what's up. I don't even know what I want to use here. Let's do Pearl and Tide. Okay, and for the rest of it, I know we've got another... Right, so I'm going to need to wait on the Orpiment Exultant. I don't think we need to wait that much longer. Am I... Yeah, still making money. I'm just trying to think if there's any other really basic things that I can do right now. I can try and make some different inks, I suppose. So if I go here, I guess it was weaving and not working that allowed me to make Peribiot. So let's make that for a start. Probably make some Catwink too, if I'm sensible. Yeah. No, that's not going to do it. But if I find a desk with winter, well, it's an obvious desk with winter. I can grouse, not good enough. Actually, why did I think that was going to work? I think I'll just leave it be, actually. Okay, poured out. So this we can really just leave anywhere. I'd like to drop more water if I could, but the time's kind of passed for that. Alright, so bit of a weird day, but we're in reasonable shape. I'm gonna wait till the day's properly done. I can't remember how long it takes to have a guest rest, but I don't want to do it too early, otherwise we lose Mr. Wakefield and D.I. Moore. All right, craft Orpiment Exultant. This is an Incastum Terminale, one of the great inks. Use it with your journal to record a history and fulfill your reason for coming to Hush House, if you so choose. Orpiment Exultant, the Incastum Terminale of the fourth history. It's the incandescent orange of Forge. One ingredient, it's been, as it were, long rumored, is the blood of candescence. Certain Masonic and related traditions venerate what they call OE. All right, I don't have a whole lot of room for inks. But what I am going to do is head down here. So I use my metal, transformations, water. We can make another Aodic essence. Transform this liquid into a ruddy essence of forge power. Full belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate. You know, we don't quite have enough time to handle the chickens, so I will leave that for now. I think we'll just take what we've got here. The last thing I need to remember is to keep the many-faceted lesson. But for the rest, I think we'll just wait it out. And then, of course, when the sun goes down, we take Zachary and D.I. Moore and put them to bed. Oh, here's Deoris. Oh, that's funny. In Latin, a 19th century reprint by the indefatigable Nathaniel Darcy Evers of a 14th century Latin translation of a 4th century work. So I did have Deoris. I just recently got it. It's a little too late to switch it out, but let us hope that it is equally possible to forget this again. All right, Catwink, dark and pungent. All right, now we start... Oops. That's no good. There we go. Some authorities claim that it is difficult to lose a pot of Peribiate ink, but they haven't lived in Hush House. All right, so first things first, let's keep the guests happy. D.I. Moore. Clean white sheets and the unmistakable military ping of a steel bed frame. Visitors will stay in a suitable bed for a little longer in case you think you might be close to finding a suitable book. All right, 3 minutes. We can work with that. And Julian Cosley and Solomon Husher, both great sages of winter, slept in this bed, although not simultaneously. No one, the story runs, has ever managed a serene night's sleep in it since. All right, so I'm kind of queuing up everything for tomorrow. Obviously, the plan is still to do the salon, but I think the right call was to... Fair. What are my virtual machines on here? I've got a Parrot one that like never works, and I believe Windows 98 actually. But yeah, here's what I'm going to do. I did threaten that I needed some tea, and it's about the halfway point on the stream, so I'm going to take a small break. I do know that I need to refill the kettle and let the water boil, so I know that always takes a little longer than I expect. But here are the plans. So number one, we've got 3 further stories currently cooking, so when morning comes, we should see those complete. Then, of course, we will have D.I. Moore and Zachary Wakefield waiting. We'll do a kind of lunch-ish salon so that we can get the extra extra trial. And then from there, we're going to put a lot of effort into things to put into the Tree of Wisdoms. So quite a bit to happen on the second day of autumn. But before any of that happens, I want to enjoy a hot beverage. So I hope you stick around for it, but perhaps if you want to get up, have a stretch, otherwise take care of yourselves, now would be a good time because we're going to run some commercials and pay the rent. Until then, I'll see you. See you in a bit. Okay, thank you everybody for hanging out. I have some tea. It's steeping though, so I won't give it a sip quite yet. But let's go through the day. So again, we're waiting on the next day. Now I don't know if it's been a while since I've done one of these further stories, so I don't know if it's going to be, bright and early first thing, in terms of completing the stories, or if we're going to have to wait a while. But either way, I'm happy to wait. Oh, I'm always happy to get apples. Like unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. Basket of apples, notoriously hard to take just one bite. Pilchards. Pickle them alone, or they're pretty good on toast. And an awakened feather. Alive to every draft and spark. Curious if I'm going to get my Iotic Essence in time. We did it! Iotic Essence. In the later operations of the Forge, the Madrigad yields to the true Forge of Days, and the essence begins to redden. The bit about the true Forge of Days nearly got St. Melisande burned for heresy, but no one ever said she was wrong about the second part. Alright, now, let's see what the weather brings first. A gale. Trees bend, walls creak, travelers bend low against the blast. So, for those of you wanting to avoid further stories, we're likely going to see some consequences. Here we go! The Vagabond, along with 2 other hours, proposes to challenge Calyptra with a flower that is neither black nor white. She hoped the Carapace Cross would tend a garden of those flowers in the fallen city of Maya, but they prefer to dwell there in peace without risking Calyptra's anger. Assist Olympi. Dappled roses are a weapon against Calyptra, a weapon made for the Vagabond and her allies among the Hours. Now the Vagabond is calling on old alliances to strengthen her hand. Olympi would happily see Calyptra weakened, but the alliance with the Carapace Cross has her worried. The Vagabond is one of the Hours' friendliest to humankind. If she recruits the Cross to tend her weapons, if she has less use for us, I fear she might become less kindly inclined to us. I would like to discourage this alliance, Librarian. Please, give me anything you have on Maya. I wish the Cross no especial ill, but their time is past, and ours is now. We must be realistic. I have found a secret in Maya that will distract them. I can ask my friend to lead them to it. They will have no part in the Vagabond's campaign against Calyptra. So, fear Carapace, my visitor has been affected by recent events and may now be more inclined to join the Lighthouse League. And Agenda Peace, a visitor has been affected by recent events and may now be more inclined to join the Lighthouse Institute. So, Madame Olympi Bichet, 2 items here. We got a Bronze Spintria and my Book of Maya. Story complete. So I'm going to need to go pick up that that book from the bridge. Next up, safety for Arthur. Arthur imprisoned the Labite Abacassus, but he is safe from Echidna's vengeance. Resolve Arthur's predicament. Help. Help? Perhaps if you can share work on Coil and Chasm, or you might know where I can find Darcy Evers' reworking of Deoris, not just the reprint. I have an idea. Give Arthur the information he needs, or enable Echidna's revenge by bringing Echidna to meet with Arthur, retiring Arthur permanently. I daren't face her. I think I can manage a ward that will turn her gaze aside from me. I'll have to be careful, but then, when haven't I been? Thank you, Librarian. Fear of Devourers. Visitor has been affected by recent events and may now be more inclined to join the Lighthouse Institute. We got a Disciplines the Hammer for that. An Inkling, an opportunity to gain a powerful memory, or a precursor to the possible misuse of a great ink. Interesting! Complete a further story in a significant way. Generally, this means not concluding inconclusively to gain an inkling. Consider an inkling to gain a memory. Consider two inkling togethers to gain an avenue of inquiry. Very interesting indeed. And finally, up by the roots, the Ostorium has entered into a formal arrangement with the Suppression Bureau. Connie Lee, profoundly unhappy with the arrangement, did her best to expose it and then fled to find a new life. I'm thinking about resigning. There are always compromises at this level, but this is a new kind of compromise. On the other hand, if I stay, I can make a difference. If I leave, I give up that power. Librarian, if you have something on the Bureau's history, achievements, triumphs, mistakes. Collars really was a piece of work, wasn't he? You know, Lady Edith has his picture in her office. This clinches it for me. I can do more good outside the Bureau than inside. This is going to cause a fuss. I'll need to lie low for a while. Thank you, Librarian. I couldn't have made this decision without you. I hope we meet again someday. Connie will resign from the Bureau and will no longer appear as a visitor, but may still be recruited to the Lighthouse Institute. Constance Lee. When it comes down to it, the Suppression Bureau is just another cabal deciding what books everyone else should read, and then reading it for themselves. My letter of resignation is ready. I'll send it from somewhere safe, without a return address. Here's how to reach me, if you really need to. Connie is no longer a visitor and will take no further part in stories. She may still become a founder of the Lighthouse Institute. So she now has interested in Moon, visitor, grateful, unsociable. Visitors marked with unsociable are wary of other visitors. They won't attend the usual kind of salon. Interesting. Agenda revelation, one who wishes to share knowledge despite Calyptra, inspired, and visitor. Okay, so this actually messes with my plan. Because it would seem to me under unsociable. That is a bit of a shame, actually, just because I was planning further revelations with Connie and Zachary, but let me just see. I'll just confirm. Yeah, visitors marked unsociable are wary of other visitors. They won't attend the usual kind of salon. So, I am a little curious. There was a bug which had actually shown Connie in one of these spots. But doesn't actually see. It doesn't seem like anything's changed inside the Lighthouse Institute, but that's fine. So, may still become a founder of the Lighthouse Institute. So this is the part that's kind of interesting to me here, is that it says may become a founder of the Lighthouse Institute, but it's not so clear to me what her role would be, if so. We'll worry about that later. Under people who are candidates, we have a Secretary Nunciant and a Secretary Vigilant. I'm trying to remember, I think we helped out Schaller. Actually, we don't need to ask the question. We have... So we did Up by the Roots. We've done Safety for Arthur. Adaptationes Mirables? I really thought... Oh yeah, and then The God Abolished. Lieselotte has been exalting willing humans with the implantation of the Larva blumberendi kind. Now that Kitling Ripe's attention has been drawn by these tasty hybrid treats, the scheme is doomed. So actually, I think that was Schaller, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess technically we've got Strathcoyne as a candidate for treasurer, which would cover me for... I guess it's everything but the Secretary Enigmatic. And weirdly enough, it actually feels that it would be really appropriate for Connie Lee to... It'd feel really appropriate to have Connie Lee in that role. But let's focus on the immediate task of getting a salon up and going. So under people who I can invite, so I think Connie was my only Sky, so I can't exactly switch her out completely, but so Blue Crown covers me for Nectar, Sky, and Winter. And of course, we've got Isle Water as well, which would be good for Moon. Okay, actually. So, Moon, Heart, Winter. Just want to see what winter things I've got in place. Okay. And then Heart, Rose, Scale. So the obvious step here would be to say we've got Heart, Rose, and Scale. Roast Pheasant also provides Heart. So what we would do is we would switch, so the T for Zachary, and then we double up the Heart. So under Heart, oh, actually also we could bring in Eason, who takes Moon Food. Oh no, hang on, no, it's Moon Food, not Moon Drink. So Stanislav John Schaller, Peter Icdistis, and apparently Yvette Southey will take anything. But let's do oh, here's a question too. So consider an inkling, investigate the insight from an incident. This will give you a persistent memory. Alternative, combine 2 inklings if you'd like to try something unwise. Combine 2 inklings. This is not the it is not the librarian's business to meddle in the world beyond Hush House, but sometimes the librarian gets curious. This will create an avenue of inquiry. All right, so my choice here is going to be between Stanislav John Schaller and Peter Icdistis. Both are interesting choices. I think for this crowd, let's bring Schaller, the healer. We'll take Natan's desk. I don't think I need to use an element of the soul for this one. Oh, it would help if I remembered what the combo was. Schaller wants Nectar, but just 3, so. Sacre bleu! Here we go. There's potential here. Start by adding a soul card. Or we just add my little black book. Or we could bring in Coquille. We'll do that later. So I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Father Stanislav to Brandkrug. So 10 seconds to get that sorted. Let's think about some other things that I can do, because we're at a point here where I can... So one, I can try and follow up on some of these memories that I have already. Don't know if that's the smartest thing for me to do right now. I could generate a little bit. Yeah, actually generating some money with the whist isn't a terrible idea just because we've got plenty of it. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. The primary goal is still going to be getting the salon, so... Alright, an avenue of inquiry. A recourse that a wise librarian might employ only as a versatile memory. There is an alternative. A great ink of power, a handy soul element, incaution, readiness, blank writing medium, inquiry via this avenue. Wise? Absence is true skill. Man, okay, that's a lot to think about. I don't really want to commit too much to this right now, but I am very curious. So let's go crazy with the edge at the start. So a great ink of power. Oh, hang on. So I probably don't have an edge. No, Nilkant gives me edge. Yeah. And the writing medium. Now, I'm kind of curious here if it has to be proper paper or... Okay, so that didn't seem to... That didn't seem to do something. But I'm curious if we just do a good old-fashioned quire of paper, which I should still have plenty... Write an Edicts Martial manuscript. That doesn't really feel like... Recourse that a wise librarian might employ only as a versatile memory. There is an alternative. A great ink of power, handy soul element, in caution, readiness, blank writing medium, inquiry via this avenue. Wise? Absence is true skill. I'm going to need to meditate on this. Now I just need to post it. Alright. Let's get a new guest. We still have time before the other guests are finished resting, so I'm not too worried about the salon, but stamp, envelope, send. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. Now, if I want to try to do something with the heart, something big with the heart, now would actually, or today would not be a bad time for it. So I'll just do a little window shopping here. We're at 11, so I need one more memory. And of course I don't have the... yeah. So I need another... We'll just leave that on its own. Alright, 90 seconds and then we're good to go. I'm also a little curious in terms of how this... Now that's interesting. Oh, hang on. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. I just had a thought. That felt like something that should have... Although there are other edges. All right. I feel like there's something there, but I'm trying... I'm in that horrible spot where I just keep trying the same thing over and over again, and that never... The game doesn't suddenly wake up and decide, oh yeah, sorry, my mistake. I should, however, move these back to where they belong. Okay, so you go here. I gotta remember, I think this was an impulse. Okay. It's a little more like it. How about my other guests? So 47 seconds, but our good friend is... Oh yes, here we go. So this one was Fear Carapace, so that puts her along with Madame Bichet. However, he also has Agenda Stone Consumed. This one would burn or shatter what remains of the gods from stone to fuel their own purposes, which definitely seems to contradict Olympi's approach. So we may need to think about something that maybe bring in Eason or Peter. I don't know. We'll see. But again, at this point, we're just waiting to get... well, I say we're waiting to get our two guests back, but actually we're waiting both for Wakefield and D.I. Moore to arrive, or not arrive, to kind of join us. And from there, we actually need to wait until it's late enough in the day to get the extra memory. My visitor grows impatient. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, so midday, I think we're good to go. Better now. So let's just jump in and see how things go. A salon in the chapter house, peaceful with excellent acoustics, although a little drafty. Oh. So, visitors marked yeah, one might, not how it's done. One might only have 11 Cs in the morning, and afternoon tea only at the appropriate time for afternoon tea. Midday, before the Great Division, this was the 6th hour, when the priests led him to the sun and splendor. Now noon, as they say, is not as it was. Perhaps the new king will change that. And autumn, the elegist season. So yeah, sorry for the waits on these, but we're almost there. The afternoon, the little hour called Nons, when the doors of the mansus are most tightly closed. For the secular, the hours when we may anticipate tea or celebrate it. My guests take their places for afternoon tea. Keep an eye on the salon as it progresses. You will need to add soul cards to encourage the conversation to flow. Different guests will need different soul cards. The more guests, the longer the salon will last. So, on we go. We are entertaining. Yes, sorry for the wait there, Stinny. We definitely had some big changes to the game. We actually got 3 of the events done with fairly dramatic results across the board. So, who are our guests and what are we serving? Lieutenant Arthur Thomas Moore, retired. Hero, pilgrim, traitor. He'll always be a soldier, but never again can he be only a soldier. Madame Olympie Bichet, essayist, illustrator, critic, editor of the Karasham Review. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest, diplomat, gardener, a soft-voiced man with a very steady gaze. Mr. Zachary Wakefield, marksman, detective, renegade. He has always been a quiet man, but since he left the Suppression Bureau, he has grown even quieter and terribly still, except for his fingers and for his eyes, always in restless motion. And D.I. Douglas Moore, detective illuminate of the Suppression Bureau, a stoic but weary fellow. His dearest wish is to move to Chingford and grow roses, but the buggers won't let him retire. And we have Don Lion coffee from beyond the great deserts. Poached mackerel. We do not poach fish in Brankrug without recalling the turbot crisis of 1786, when Dr. Westcott caught a prodigious turbot and required the kitchen to poach it for him without division. But no vessel of sufficient size could be found to poach it entire. At last they resorted to alchemical assistance. Mackerel, fortunately, requires no alchemy for its poaching. Cater and Hero Second Flush Assam, tea from the land of the real unicorn, imported from Cater and Hero. The stuffed golden marrow. This marrow was accounted a beauty among its kind. Now it's a dish for those who understand fidelity. Roast pheasant. Best when roasted upside down to start, but turned right way up before the end. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice the headgear. Islewater glass from Brankrug's Deep Springs. Roast potatoes. You really need rosemary for roast potatoes, but fortunately the kitchen garden at Hush House has never been short of rosemary. Blue Crown tea, always served cold. More accurate to say, inevitably served cold. And Madeira cake. In the 18th century, one would have a slice of this in the morning with a glass of Madeira, fortified wine from the Madeira Islands, volcanic yet lush, rugged yet balmy, bright with the calls of sandpipers and firecrests. This is the 20th century. We have afternoon tea now. We don't drink fortified wine at 10 o'clock in the morning. No more sandpipers. No more firecrests. But the cake's still good. Almonds. That's a fun one, Astani. Yeah, I have some specific things that I want to try and accomplish with some of the different individuals, but I do actually like thinking a little bit about the guest list too. Although I haven't done a fully themed salon yet, I should maybe try that in the future. All right, at long last, here we go. My guests take their places for afternoon tea. I am particularly fond of muffins. I hosted guests for afternoon tea. A more somber tone. Add a Faust card. Arthur and Zachary reminisce about London at night, how it has changed, and how they have changed. Conversation ebbs and flows. Invite a challenge. Add a metal card. Olympie is interested in a Ramsand-inscribed altar to the beach crow that Arthur found in a cliff grotto near, Trebizond? He sketches some of the signs for her. Ramsand lesson. a more sober tone. So we're actually running short on Faust now. Douglas warns Olympe darkly of the dangers of knitting before sleep and the paths it can open in the wood. Yes, I knit. Gentlemen can knit. Instinct and emotion. Add a tryst card. Zachary and Douglas reminisce about a case they both worked on years ago when they had to find a way to bind Thriceros, which had somehow found its way into the Thames. Douglas recalls how the binding process first awakened his enthusiasm for knitting, and Zachary makes the necessary effort to fold his face into a smile. There's actually a couple of useful ones that we're getting out of this for drums and dances. Conversation ebbs and flows. Raise a complex question. I have a name, Zachary says dispassionately, and another name. One of them is written only in Kilisimi. I will speak of it, because you have invited me, but I will not speak it, because I am a guest. Oh, you mean how everything sort of starts piling up? Conversation ebbs and flows. I should probably keep the lesson of many facets just in case. My guests leave happy. You've gained an additional potent memory. Alright, that was a neat one. It's actually fun to learn a little bit of Douglas's knitting origins. A lively salon. You've held a lively salon. Use this as a marker to remind you that you can't hold another salon until next season. Memory satisfaction, which will pretty much go away, and enduring reflection, so that saves us the effort of making another one. Kilisimi, actually we got 2 languages, which is a little funny out of this one. But I'll not complain. Quenchings and quellings. Weaving and not working. Ramsond. And a ragged crossroads. Okay, so the next thing that we want to take care of is how to use these lessons. I don't know if it's possible to have sort of, not exactly back-to-back Numas, but close to. So it wouldn't be... I tend to take the idea that... how do I put it? Where I can, I'd like to... oh. Sorry, I got a few more things I want to erase off this. Oh, come on. All right. And actually, I get to... I think I'm going to erase... Yeah, I'm actually going to erase a few things on this. I had a couple of like salons set up and whatnot, but I think now wouldn't be a bad idea for just kind of a clean slate on a lot of this. Okay, so what am I trying to accomplish? Excuse me. What am I trying to accomplish here? Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start erasing some of these entries that I don't need more. So I think for Nyctodromi, we're sort of set. But I think that's... yeah, all the other ones I actually need to put stuff into. So... I had on my list Horamakastri, Drums and Dances, so 2 Heart, 2 Nectar. Now that actually seems to be a pretty straightforward one for me here. So the Quenchings and Quellings and Weaving and Not Working seem to be pretty sensible ways for me to handle that. Kilisimi has Moon and Winter, so maybe we'll throw that into Edict's Inviolable. We don't have a whole lot of winter stuff right now. So Ragged Crossroads is the... Ragged Crossroads is sort of the question mark on this. And then Hammer Time... yeah, not so sure about. Okay, but I think the one I want to work on the most right now would be... I think probably right now the thing I want to work on the most would be Drums and Dances. And I'm slightly curious. I don't really think this is going to work out, but I want to give this a try because we do actually have the Gale and Satisfaction to play around with. So if I do a Drums and Dances, and then let's say we'll throw a core in there just for the heck of it. So we've got Weaving and Not Working. Now, there are some things I don't want to throw away. So Avenue of Inquiry is a non-starter for obvious reasons. But okay, well that covers it, right? We've got Satisfaction, Gale. Actually, that may not quite be... Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a complete flyer on this. I'm going to see if I can get the sound from the key. Investigate the object. You won't use this up or consume it by doing this. And in other circumstances would even get the scent, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that before the end of the day. Okay. So I think we actually get a head start. I'll probably be down a core, but I think I can live with that. So I think in the end we're going to want Drums and Dances 7. Okay, works for me. At last, I am something of an authority in this. Improve the skill to level 6. And if I can, I would like to use the ideally I use the lesson of many facets sooner rather than later. But right now I actually want to just bang out whatever levels I can with sort of my own resources here. Right, memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. So first thing that I can do, well, actually there's two. So one will probably bring in a villager for conversation. So to speak with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. Let's make some money. Could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Or add a coin to find visitors seeking employment. Now, one thing I'm going to do as a preparation, I'm going to be trying to level up drums and dances, so I need a heart or nectar for that. So core seems to make as much sense as anything else. I'm also going to take the time to draw up some water. Now from that, I think I said Edicts Inviolable was going to be the next one to move up, so that we can set aside a tryst for. So this was Drums and Dances. This was Edicts Inviolable. What was I going to do with the Ramson, though? Not so clear, because it says Moth and Sky, and the ones that I was looking at were Leaves and Thorns, which are Grail and Nectar, Stone Stories, which is Scale and Nectar, Edicts Inviolable, which is Heart and Moon, and Drums and Dances, which is about to be wrapped up. Well, actually, with that in mind, we don't need to... We don't need to completely roll over on this. Feels like there's still more that we can do. So for next steps, Horamakistry, after a Drums and Dances 7, we would do Anbury and Lapdary 8. So that gives me something for Ramsund. Ithistry is Spices and Savors at 5. So that's ready to go. I actually don't know why I didn't commit that yet. After Spices and Save... Oh, hang on. I think I know why. Because at the time, we didn't have the forge. Okay. So the next one would be Pyroglyphics at 6. So that also gives me another thing to work at for the forge. Moving on, so Rhyme and Remembrance should be at 5. Let me just double check that it is. Okay, it is. Next is 6 for Orchids and Narcotics. Now that's Grail and Nectar. I think I already had that on the list. No, apparently it was Leaves and Thorns. Okay, so it's competing with Leaves and Thorns, which makes it a little awkward. Stone Stories. Alright, so that one's going to be another demanding one because that's Scale and Nectar. So basically none of this stuff. And then Insects and Nectars would be the next one for Bosk. So another fight for Nectar, and I never remember the other one for Insects and Nectars. So that one, Moon and Nectar. So alas, another one that's coming up short. Okay, so we'll say Disciplines of the Hammer probably makes sense with Anbury and Lapdary. So what do I do with my Edge and Winter? Actually, here's an interesting thought. It may be out of the remaining skills that I need to level up. So when I just take a look at what I've got listed on the sheet here. So for Bosk, I have Insects and Nectar 7, Rites of the Roots 8, Furs and Feathers 9. None of those are edge skills. Stone Stories, Trades Mahaira, and an Edict's Inviolable for Preservation, so none of those are edge skills either. Leaves and Thorns for Birdsong, that's level 9, so that's Grail and Nectar. Horamachistry has Drums and Dances at 7, Sacrosolus Invicti at 9, and Anbury and Lapidary at 8, so again, none of those are edges. Ithistry is currently empty, so we've got Spices and Savors at 5, Pyroglyphics at 6, Purifications and Exaltations at 7, Preliminal Meter at 8, and Solutions and Separations at 9. Again, no edge. Scolacosophy, we've got Rhyme and Remembrance, Orchid and Nectars, Pentiments and Precursors, Serpents and Venoms, and Horns and Ivories. And then finally, for Hushery, we've got Inks of Revelation, Glassblowing and Vessel Crafting, and Quenchings and Quellings. So, all told, I really shouldn't be looking for edge here. So, going back to basics, I suppose at this point we're looking for Winter Moth and Sky. So Sacrosolus Invicti would give me the Moth, I suppose. Where are you? There's no way that I use that in a... Here we go. Right, okay, so that's a Lantern and Sky. Huh. Alright, I know Solutions and Separations has a Moth element, but it'd be a little weird for me to use... Well, I mean, it's no worse than using it in any of the other ones. So maybe we say Solutions and Separations gets used here. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I know I only have about a half hour left, but I actually kind of need to go to the bathroom. So I'm probably not going to take the tablet with me, but I want to try and figure out a little bit of a better path through the tree before I do this. But yeah, I am going to take a minute. I will try and make it as fast as possible. But I will see you all in a little bit, and then we will continue our session. Mostly I just want to make sure I'm using the elements of the soul in a sensible way for the upcoming day. And then when I can, use the free lesson to try and do something difficult. But anyways, see you all in a little bit. All right, sorry about that. Let's get going. All right. So there is actually another way that I should probably be thinking about this too, which is how much can I... Okay, so we're focusing on drums and dances for a start. And that's going to be 6 lessons that I get. Oh yeah, and then I'm going to need to do like the replacement eternal enduring reflections. What was the other one that I used for that? Enduring reflection and earth sign. Okay, so earth sign's a fairly straightforward one for me to get back. So we'll start with that. Enduring reflection I'm going to need a memory for, and obviously I don't want to give up the ones that I have. Oh, I was meaning to, I meant to do this so much earlier in the day. I have now finally heard... I've heard the song that's associated with this. So I'm still trying to find a copy of the Grub Street Opera for me to read. But I have now heard the music associated with the roast beef of Old England. Do I have the marinated one? I feel like I should. If chat donates $200, I'll even sing it. I usually have one of everything. Did I forget to marinate the roast beef? Oh no, here it is. Oh, we've got more than one. All right, let's keep focused on the task at hand. So yeah, I'm going to need 6 heart memories before... Well, heart or nectar memories. So let's think about the blocks for... Okay, here's what I'm going to do. A slightly better approach would probably be for me to think about the blocks to getting the next level of things. Also, I could use some more Faust, which means going down the Ithistry path would make the most sense. So we've got the spices and savors. So pyroglyphics would be the next one for me to focus on then. And pyroglyphics I can use lantern and forge with. So if that's true, lantern and forge, so I would do... So we should treat that as though that's at level 3 now, because we already have Disciplines of the Hammer. So another 3 lantern or forge. How do we do that? Okay, so there's 1. I'm gonna use this for something else. Ooh. Okay, so I like where this is going for each flame its fuel, but I actually think we don't have enough sky to make this work. But the big blue business, 10... It'll be a little bit of a lift, but I think we're in reasonably good shape. And I actually want to see if we get 3 out of that. Okay, so first task. So if we take our Faust, Disciplines of the Scar is the best lantern that I have to throw at that. We can definitely do better lantern-wise. Yeah, so I need to somehow find 3 lantern or try and get lucky. Do I feel lucky, Punk? Or I throw Ashertine at it. But I don't think I'm ready for that. Okay, but I actually think I have enough to get going. So, next thing I'm going to do here is we're going to prep for drums and dances first. And the way I'm going to do that is basically to get all of the heart or nectar stuff that Mr. Kill can't theoretically produce for me. So, Bittersweet Certainties doesn't help. Confounding Parable, so we need heart or nectar, which doesn't do anything. Impulse is something Mr. Kill can give me. Pattern doesn't help. Gossip is something Mr. Kill might get me. Hindsight, no. Satisfaction might get from Mr. Kill. Regrets doesn't help. Salt doesn't help. Foresight doesn't help. Oh no, Foresight. No, so Foresight doesn't help for drums and dances. Intuitions, no. Storms does, but I can get that from Mr. Kill, as I can get Solace. Fears don't help. Secret Thresholds don't help. Earth Signs we're getting. Cheerful Ditties we can get. Revelations and Contradictions don't really help. So, I mean, at this point, I gotta these. I wish I remembered this better. Heart or nectar? Neither one of these. I imagine something like Serpent Root might give it to me, but I don't think I want to read this quite yet. Okay, so I'm going to change the approach. I was originally going to use Mr. Kill, but we're really going to be running short of... in terms of things to get. So we're getting 2 memories of the 6 that I need. So this will be 3. Actually, let's read the Kukabit Prisoner. Or, sorry, I guess we just read that in description. So... Malachite Supplications. So that's 3 of 6. Satisfaction will be 4 of 6. Five of 6, and then Solace will be 6 of 6. Okay, so that's going to be drums and dances taken care of. So I suppose the next one would be Edicts Inviolable, which we were going to use the Kilisimi for. So that will require 5 of the Moon or Heart. So I guess one place we can start would be with the Tryst. So the focus here is going to be more on the Moon stuff, so we can use the Confounding Parables in this case. Let's do the Snare of the Tree. And in this one, I'm going to let Mr. Kill do his thing because we have sort of a longer wait. But I think at the least I can get the salt. Well, I can get whatever the desks will permit me to get, but the salt, and imagine I'll have at least one other. We got a Kilisimi already, so. Alright, I think we'll make do with that for now. And yeah, I think I will maybe just try and grab the sound. Oh, we have another gale. That'll help me with the... that'll help me level stuff up. Investigate with our whist. Investigate this object. You won't use this up or consume it by doing this. An offer from Oriflammes. Oriflammes established 1776. Sense, Signs, Sciences. Dear librarian, we would like to offer you this opportunity to purchase, and this is The Voyages of Furnishon of Auriel, the impossible travels of a sea captain of the late Phoenician era. Suppressed throughout recorded history, those who read it were said to disappear. So an 18 moon mystery, definitely not an easy one for us, but definitely one we want to add to the collection. Alright, Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. So let's get chatting. Mr. Kill, Ryan Spry doesn't mind stopping for a gossip. So again, the main point here is going to be to try and get as far as I can with the memories and lessons, and the aim here is to right now just use up whatever lessons I get from the salon, and then we can move on and try and make something of the lesson of many facets and whatever books I have access to. So one of the things I'd kind of like to try and do is not just level up the things that will immediately help me in the Tree of Wisdoms, but I'd actually also like to uplift my ability to do certain books. So a good example of this would be something like the Chandler's Wish, or even what was the one we wanted? Each Flame is Fuel. Being able to level up certain sky skills would be helpful. Alright, dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? But again, one thing at a time. Let's focus on what we can do right now, and then I can have a bit of a think in terms of the next path. I did sort of take some time to work out this tree so that I didn't have to worry about having sort of a kind of a desert of certain aspects, but that's assuming that I get everything where it needs to be, and obviously that takes time. Wrapped in the King, detailed accounts of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul and eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries, of the cults of both Isis and of Sybil, but include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with queasily sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. At these greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying. On this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in its carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in the earth. Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Lopoli left Strathcoyne's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyne. For 4 years since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Lopoli served as Strathcoyne's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I still think Fraser's intentions are good, certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear this dream of eyes. We have agreed to part almost amicably." Hello, Prosciutto Fist. We had some big developments happen with our different characters here. How are you doing tonight? And for those of you not familiar, Prosciutto Fist is a historian, sometimes game player. Actually, it's the other way around. She plays the games on the Twitch, and then will also do the occasional history stream. They may be going on ice for a little bit, just because they started off quite strong in terms of viewership, but I know there's been a little bit of a struggle in terms of getting the numbers in there. And of course, I tend to be streaming, so you worked 11 to 8:30. Good Lord. I hope you were enjoying some well-deserved rest. Now, did you have to deny people their pay, like, for the whole shift, or is that only something that you do part-time? Or maybe you do it for free because you like it so much. Anyways, Prosciutto Fist definitely has a very fun channel. You get to see me as my real self inside of chat, and her mod Viridian, resist the urge to ban me in most, but not all cases. Actually, most cases. All cases. You made balls of pie dough. Well, is it because you don't know how to make the pie shape? Do you get the pie shape person to go and do them? Anyways, Pro is a lot of fun, and she puts up with a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think how to tell some of the developments of the game without giving spoilers, but you definitely should do some of the further stories, Pro. There's some fun things that happen to the different characters. Okay. Elapoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of his journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the site of Old Lake Fucinus near Ortuccio. The Snare of the Tree collected proverbs of Aunt Mopsy. Once in the wood we call a visit, twice in the wood we call a journey, thrice we call coming home. Every timber has its knots, the straight and the crooked both. Every weave is more absence than thread. You can't keep nowhere out any more than you can keep somewhere in. When the cuckoo learns the nightingale's song, our sleep is sweeter than honey. Alright, the wonderful shape, blessings and invocations of the triple knot recorded at a sanctuary in Cyprus, notable for its weavers, sculptors, and gardeners. The roots go deep, the knots remain. The final invocation is one for the restoration of the roots, to be spoken before an altar of the triple knot, but puzzlingly, it should not be spoken by any priestess of the knot, or even by one who has been initiated into their mysteries. What does not bark? Alexander Props writes warily of Calyptra, a law, principle, or society which prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. Calyptra, like the planet that occludes the star, or the Doylean dog that fails to bark, can be identified only by its absence. Even the name, I think, must be a mask. Calyptra is said to make exceptions specifically for the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. Does it make those exceptions so the Hours can make use of them? Malachite Supplications, prayers addressed to the Malachite by the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. If we should flourish not, let our enemies flourish, in that time when we are no more. One prayer describes how a strong degree of nectar aspect can be used with Lethe, and Tradismahira writes to bring forth the last nectar of the last history, the living ink, the ink in secret. Traveling at Night Volume 2, the annotated dream journals of Christopher Elapoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, bewildering. There is an extensive discussion of the comparisons between Elapoli's own dreams and those of the Emperor Elagabalus, who Elapoli regards as a dupe or avatar of the sun in rags. The white is west of the world, Elapoli remarks, and winter does not wait forever. Elagabalus found his way to the White Door, at last, thankfully. Speech can't pass the White Door, and honestly, Elagabalus never had anything very interesting to say. I tried to follow in his footsteps, but I never learnt enough of the White. I suppose I'm thankful for that too, but here's what I do know. And the sea does not regret. Eason Fekri, one-time Secretary Salvant of the Curia of the Isle, responsible for the Curia's healing efforts, writes of his experiences in Brandkrug and hints at his travels elsewhere. The sea does not regret the tide, Fekri writes, for when the tide is past, it leaves its traces on the sand, which traces are the sea's memory. Fekri is a keen fisherman and speaks glowingly of the fish suppers of Brandkrug. He also admits that his enthusiasm for the bounty of the sea has altered him, that before he came to Brandkrug he consumed only those things found in the earth, I was the greater thereby, but all of us give up what we were to become what we are. And last but not least, help with letters. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, because we have a genuine culinary expert in the chat, I will ask you, Pro, have you seen the text for the beef in Book of Hours yet? Because we have roast beef and marinated roast beef. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to level up drums and dances. When I thought I'd understood, I'd only begun. Improve the skill to level 7. Alright, so I'm just going to take a minute here to make a few notes on my skills. So, we've got drums and dances. Anbury and Lapidary was going to be the next one. Oh yeah, actually this was the tricky part. So Anbury and Lapidary would be the next one for Horamachistry, but I think I wanted to put that into Ithistry instead. But even before that, I was going to put something into Edicts Inviolable. Or maybe not. Okay, before I do that, let's try and get an Enduring Reflection. What do I even do with one of you? Works for me. All right, moving on. I didn't quite do this right, but I think this will still work. Let's also try to get a Curious Hunch. That's not it. I think I'm gonna give up the salt rather than use up the gale. So I'll read a book to get the salt. Okay, so let's think realistically what do I have here for Edicts Inviolable? Because it's Heart and Moon. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's say that's a pretty safe 3. So if I need 5, then I think we just go for the old heart stuff that I wanted. So we can use... This is an easy one. And then we can just take a contradiction. Okay, so that's Edicts Inviolable spoken for. So let's maybe move on to the Pyroglyphics. This one's a little bit of a challenge because I also want to try and read... You know what? I think I'm actually going to take a shot at reading the... Yeah, I think I'm going to take a shot at reading the Lantern book. So I will... There aren't a lot of great options here. But we'll make do. We'll read Glimmerings as well. Yeah, we'll see what a minute gives us, and then we'll keep talking with Mr. Kill while we do that. So I know in terms of basics, we've got... Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? Yeah, so we know we've got the Edicts Inviolable taken care of, and we know we can get at least some of the basics for Pyroglyphics down. And I think maybe from there it may not be a bad idea for me to start thinking about how I can use the Ragged Crossroads and the Ramson, maybe? The skill is now level 7, its power aspects have also increased. And a little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. Now, I don't actually really need this pitcher of water right now, so it's more of a liability than anything. But yeah, at this point, I think I'm just going to wait out the timers, because it's going to be a little bit that rests on my ability to read the Opus Magnum Ceruleum. Or possibly Ceruleum. It's got to be Ceruleum. And I see that Mr. Kill's in a very gossipy mood today. Alright, let's see how this goes. The Crossing to Noon. The mystic Garcia Sowry gives a picturesque account of the adventures of Franklin Bancroft, the Prince of Wines, and Ava DeWolf, the Pale Lady, on their way to the hidden island of Noon. For a long time, the Blackbone pondered her next move, until the moon dared to peep from behind a cloud, and the prince completed the composition of his third sestina, but the lady met the blind gaze of its open pores, waiting for the tide. Garcia Sowry acknowledges in an epilogue that it is widely known that Ava in fact tragically drowned herself and her twin infant granddaughters without ever making such a journey. But he adds contemptuously, it was also widely known that the city unbuilt will so remain. Oop, just lost my monitor. That only one history is ever written, and that Janus is a Mansus prank. So that one's going to go towards Edicts Inviolable. We've read the Perugian Diary, so I'll skip that for now. Sunrise Awakenings, an uncharacteristically poignant meditation by the Edgerlog Trog of Merionid, who later came to Hush House under a variety of other names, often in search of some sort of fight. If light were not silent, it would be music. If music were viable, it would be light. Each day's light, Trog suggests, is faintly touched by the light of every past day, so in the light of every present day we may begin to understand something of the days to come. At least this appears to be his conclusion, but he stops in mid-sentence, apparently having lost patience with the act of writing or possibly having been ambushed. Revelation. Some truths come to us from outside or above. Glimmerings, an anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the Kukurbit. The prisoner is plainly terrified and bewildered by their situation and has been unable to wrangle a coherent explanation out of anyone, but the dreams keep coming and they keep writing them down. Snow, broken mirrors, half-heard sky music, flowers of white, red, and black, a blood-streaked winter dawn, the most notorious signifiers of oniric risk, fantastically vivid and detailed. No wonder they were locked up. Their final recorded dream is of a worm jewel beneath Brankrug Isle, which they open with a key carved from their finger bone. De Bellis Mirorum, an 18th century epic poem by the pseudonymous Solipstos. The poem elliptically describes a war between beasts, weather phenomena, and arcane concepts. It's quite specific about their tactics. The two unjoined and the horn distinguished. Consequently, blood. Better now. Alright. So, as we said, the next goal here is going to be to level up Edicts Inviolable. So that cheerful ditty, salt, Gale, confounding parable, contradiction. I think I had some other options here technically, but I won't worry about it too much. And finally, we add some Trist. So at last I am something of an authority in this. Improve the skill to level 6. Okay, so this is going to be for pyroglyphics. But while we're waiting, let's see if we can make the big blue business work. The other thing that's nice is that I also have enough elements of the soul that if we get challenged there, we can just put more of ourself in. So here we'll add Disciplines of the Scar, and just to try and push things a little bit further, we'll add the Mirror Scope. So we are 1 short. Perhaps you've provided Lantern, but not enough to match Mystery Lantern. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. So if they ask for a memory or an element of the soul, we're good. If they ask for weather, we're not so good. You are back after creating magical buttered noodles. Okay, so I actually had a question for you based on your food experience, especially because I'm going to be wrapping up reasonably soon. Have you seen the description of the beef in this game before? Dead men don't tell no bloody tales? Well, who'd listen? You have not. All right. Well, you're in luck. For those of you who stuck with me to the very end, I believe this is the tune for the roast beef of Old England. Please keep in mind that I am not playing to my strengths here, but our fathers of old were robust, stout, and strong, and kept open house with good cheer all day long, which made their plump tenants rejoice in this song. Oh, the roast beef of Old England, and Old English roast beef. But since we have learnt from all vapouring France to eat their ragouts as well as to dance, we're fed up with nothing but vain complaisance. Oh, the roast beef of Old England, and Old English roast beef. It's like a 17th century diss track for Europe. There are a few other verses, but not applesauce. Marinade. The Moth's gift or mine? Enduring reflection. Refine what is, recall what remains. Incidentally, if anybody has, I'm guessing the Internet Archive might have it, but if anybody does know where I can find, if someone calls you a plump tenant, I'm moving. What was I going to say? Yeah, if anybody knows where I can find the Grub Street Opera, apparently it's the only one of Henry Fielding's plays that wasn't performed. But what's interesting is that usually you'd expect stuff from that time to be public domain, and I'm sure it is, but it isn't online. Like, I don't see it on something like Project Gutenberg, or like Wikisource doesn't have it either. So, and the local library is not nearly good enough to have a copy of something like that. So, I'm curious, and not just because of the song. It's called the Grub Street Opera. So, actually, I can we can do a quick summary of it. I'm kind of into extra hours for the stream now, so. The Grub Street Opera is a play by Henry Fielding that originated as an expanded version of his play The Welsh Opera. It was never put on for an audience and is Fielding's single print-only play. As in The Welsh Opera, the author of the play is identified as Scriblerus Secundus. Secundus also appears in the play and speaks of his role in composing the plays. In the Grub Street Opera, the main storyline involves two men and their rival pursuit of women. The play is Fielding's first truly political play and first ballad opera. Unlike the Welsh Opera, the play deals with morality from the beginning. Additionally, it is linked to Fielding's previous attacks on the London theatre and inept writers. Fielding also used the virtue of female servants as a point of humor and discusses morality while using the effeminacy and dominance by women to mock various characters and discusses the issue of gender roles. Critics viewed the Grub Street Opera positively, noting it to be a definite improvement on the Welsh Opera. Cool, is that, that's Internet Archive, right? I'll take a 1731 copy. I can handle the weird spelling. Fielding created 3 theatrical versions of the Grub Street Opera. Of these, one was performed at a Haymarket theatre, but only in rehearsals. The play originates as an expanded version of the Welsh Opera. The revision had a puff piece in the 21st May 1731 Daily Post saying, "We hear that the Grub Street Opera, written by Scriblerus Secundus, was to have been postponed till next season. Will, at a particular request of several persons of quality, be performed within a fortnight, being now in rehearsal at the new theatre in Haymarket." Later, it was advertised again in 5th of June 1731 Daily Post as being rehearsed, but the 11th June edition stated that one of the performers was sick, and the 14th June edition said that the play would be postponed indefinitely. It was never produced, and the Grub Street Opera is the only play by Fielding that existed only as a printed play. It is unknown as to why the play was never put on for an audience, but it is possible that it is not performed because Fielding was either legally prevented to perform it by the British government or he was bribed not to perform it. John Henley, a defender of Robert Walpole and Walpole's government, discussed the incident in his poem Haymarket Actors of the Designed Grub Street Opera, published in the 8th to 15th of June 1731 edition of his newspaper, Hip Doctor. In it, he gloated over the play being kept from performance and stated that the government did not accept the play. He followed this in the 15th to 22nd June edition with an attack upon Fielding. No worries. Like Rayner's printing of the Welsh Opera, Rayner printed the genuine Grub Street Opera without Fielding's knowledge in August 1731. The print edition was based on the second script. Fielding responded with claims of piracy and was upset that his satirical attack, primarily upon Walpole's administration, became public knowledge. Fielding eventually printed his own version of the play dated 1731. However, it is possible that it was not actually printed until June 1755, shortly after Fielding's death by his friend Andrew Miller. Regardless of date, the connection to Fielding to the edition establishes this later version as the only authoritative edition. I'm going to skip over the plot because I would actually like to read it for myself, but... Themes: The Grub Street Opera is the first truly political play and also Fielding's first ballad opera. As such, it owes a lot to Fielding's model, John Gay's The Beggar's Opera. Unlike his other Scriblerus plays, Fielding's Scriblerus persona in The Grub Street Opera is deeply connected to Gay instead of Gay's fellow members of the Scriblerus Club, Alexander Pope or Jonathan Swift. I'm actually going to take a second to open this one too, because this is a fun little bit of history. As in the Welsh Opera, this connection served as a means to put forth a general political view and to deal with politics in a more critical way, unlike any of Fielding's previous plays. The play is a political allegory that satirizes Walpole's government and the British monarchy. However, the play does not pick a side but pokes fun at everyone. He also keeps his personal political views out of the play. Fielding hoped to remove any moral ambiguity found within the Beggar's Opera. Unlike the Welsh Opera, the rewrite deals with morality at the very beginning. Similarly, the play focuses on problems within the literary community. The title links the play with the Grub Street Journal, a periodical that satirized inept writers that frequent Grub Street. It also links the play with Fielding's previous attacks on the London theatre and inept writers. In particular, Fielding satirizes bad imitations of Gay's The Beggar's Opera and those who do not understand what Gay's play was originally about, especially in regards to its mockery of the Italian opera tradition. The virtue of female servants is a point of humor in the play. Traditionally, female servants were depicted in comedic works as those lacking virtue and sexually willing towards their masters. The constant discussion of virtue and the upholding of virtue on the part of servants is used in juxtaposition of that tradition to amuse the audience. However, the discussion also serves as a means for Fielding to discuss morality in a manner similar to Daniel Defoe's use of Moll Flanders or Samuel Richardson's use of Pamela. Unlike those later novelists, Fielding incorporates the humorous juxtaposition to allow for a mixture of humor and truth. The issue of gender roles and the virtue of various characters is extended further within the Grub Street Opera to include the use of effeminacy and dominance by women to mock various characters. In particular, the way men are dominated by their wives and made fun of and shown as problematic. Jeez, keep your politics out of my satire plays. Sources. Bertrand Godger believed that in the play, Fielding unambiguously jeered at politicians and court figures, reducing them to the level of a Welsh family with its domestic squabbles. Fielding transitioned from the Pulteney and Walpole feud, see discussion at the Welsh Opera, sources, to parodying the royal family when he expanded the Welsh Opera into the Grub Street Opera. Unlike the feud, the depiction of the royal family was risky, especially seeing as how Fielding had no direct knowledge of any actual actions taking place with the royal family. Indeed, he based his knowledge on rumors. As for specific characters, Sir Owen Apshinken represents George II of Great Britain. Lady Apshinken represents Queen Consort Caroline of Ansbach, and the Apshinken son represents Frederick, Prince of Wales. The help also represent individuals involved with politics. For example, the gardener Thomas represents Thomas Pelham Halls, the first Duke of Newcastle. Their groom John represents John Hervey, 2nd Baron Hervey. The butler Robin represents Sir Robert Walpole. The coachman William represents William Pulteney, 1st Earl of Bath. Although these depictions may have caused problems for Fielding, the Battlestons believe that Fielding's satire is fairly innocuous when compared to the egregious standard of scandal-mongering and vituperation current at the time, and, an important circumstance often overlooked, his satire is even-handed in roasting both parties alike. Although the play was never performed, its revisions reflect how Fielding sought to cater to what audiences saw was popular in the earlier version, the Welsh Opera, which include adding more songs. Although not performed on the stage, the songs became popular on their own. This is especially true in the case of the Roast Beef of Old England. Edgar Roberts, when examining the quality of the songs of the play, declared that it is fair to say the Grub Street Opera is musically the most satisfactory of all the ballad operas written in the decade following The Beggar's Opera, except when performed by Twitch streamers. Likewise, Robert Hume determined that the Grub Street Opera was one of the finest ballad operas of its time. Other views focused on other aspects, including the possible topical statements. John Loftus argues that this afterpiece in the form of ballad opera seems, in its rendering of court gossip, to be a dramatization of Lord Hervey's memoirs. Thomas Cleary wrote that the Grub Street Opera is a much better play than the two-act Welsh Opera. It is so much improved that the impossibility of staging it must have infuriated Fielding. Thomas Lockwood believes that both the Welsh Opera and the Grub Street Opera are characterized by a spirit of fun, but are complicated by the 18th century politics that gave them birth. All right, and because the Scribblers Club, I think we've talked about this before, but I like this. So the Scribblers Club was an informal association of authors based in London that came together in the 18th century. Sorry, not 17th century, 18th century. In terms of referring to diss tracks. There were prominent figures in the Augustan age of English letters. The nucleus of the club included satirists Jonathan Swift and Alexander Pope. Other members were John Gay, John Arbuthnot. Sorry, I'm not good with pronunciation. Henry St. John and Thomas Parnell. The group was founded in 1714 and lasted until the death of the founders, finally ending in 1745. Pope and Swift are the two members whose reputations and work have had the most long-lasting influence. Working collaboratively, the group created the persona Martinus Scriblerus, through whose writings they accomplished their satirical aims. Very little of this material, however, was published until the 1740s. Robert Haley, the first Earl of Oxford and Mortimer, occasionally joined the club for meetings, though he is not known to have contributed to their literary output. He, along with Henry St. John's, first Viscount Bolingbroke, contributed to the literary productions of the club. The club began as an effort to satirize the abuses of learning wherever they might be found, which led to the memoirs of Martinus Scriblerus. Second edition of Pope's The Dunciad also contains work attributed to Martinus Scriblerus. Richard Owen Cambridge wrote a mock epic poem, the Scribleriad, where the hero is Martinus Scriblerus, and Henry Fielding's the play The Welsh Opera is presented as a tribute to the Scriblerians. Fielding's pen name was Scriblerus Secundus. So there's your learning for tonight. Now, out of curiosity, I don't know if tonight is the night for this, but I did finish A Tale of a Tub some time ago. But there's actually 2 sections to it that are sort of additions. There is the Battle of the Books, and there is the... there's Mechanical Operations of the Spirit. Would there be appetite for me to read the Battle of the Books at some point? Because there's actually a couple of fun bits in it. Alright, there's still a chance. Soul or memory? Alright, we'll use the memory in this case. Oriflammes thanks you for your custom. So I'm not going to worry about reorganizing the library here. I'll just put that off to the side. Okay, we'll pass over the soul. Mr. Kill hasn't been too helpful in memories, but we're almost at the end of the day, so I'm not too worried about missing out on some of this. I am going to need to figure out what the deal with Avenue of Inquiry is. So the funny thing, this actually would have been very good for, it would have been very good for the drums and dances and the edicts inviolable. Better now. All right, so we can kind of throw everything at the sweet bones. We didn't really use all of our elements as we should have. I think I'll get another pitcher of water, mostly because I can. And I don't know. No. We'll leave it be. All right. I really like the description of this one. Opus Magnum Carillium. Ambrose Westcott used to render the title of this venerable and anonymous work mockingly as The Big Blue Business. A kinder translation would be The Great Work in Azure. The reason for Westcott's enmity to the work are clear to any pyroglyphicist. It was written at least 2 centuries before he was born, but anticipates or undermines many of his preferred conclusions. The work in question is the creation of the blue gold allegedly necessary for the terrible rite which allows a forgelong to become a name. The book mentions that pyroglyphics techniques can be used with forge to create iotic essence as a necessary component, but withholds the final step, insisting that the consequences are too dire and that any interest should remain only a matter of theory. Okay, so that's 2 pyroglyphics, so we're going to need 1 more of those, which we can get from the Hammer Time book. We do have another foresight, so I think we can throw that on here. All right, so the real question is, can I knock out a can I knock out another level for pyroglyphics before the end of the night? Pyroglyphic needs forge or lantern. So I think probably my best bet here would be, I think probably another bittersweet certainty. The last thing I think I'll do for today, let's see if we can sneak out some curse removal. So Keeper Skin needs something that is good against corruptions. So I gotta find that first. Well, actually, this is a gate. Okay, so let's think about curses first then. So ideally knock curses, but I don't think we actually have something that's knock curse. Yeah, so any of these, one's as good as the other. So we need 7 knock. Now this is where it gets weird. So I can take my Shapt. So I can add the Gospel of Zacchaeus. So I don't have any knock tools, so yeah, a 5 memory is a tall order. Like, we've got 4, but there isn't a knock. I don't have a knock tool to push it over the 1. Excuse me. Yeah, so let's leave that aside. Let's see if there's maybe something a little simpler. So both are corruptions, but one is nectar and one is moon. That's promising. So we'll go to Nona's desk for this one. So herbs and infusions. Pluck it, powder it, mix it, warm it, drink it, but not that one. And we'll take the mortar and pestle. So presumably from there, we take the green jasper tablet. Keeper Skin is persistent, but it has its weaknesses. And just to spare me the misery of finding it again. Oh, Sickle and Eclipse. All right, actually we should be able to look the Winkwell as well. I'm glad we looked into this. Suppress Winkwell corruption. The softest edges of the velvet's cloaking darkness, invoked carefully through the black flower of the Watchman's tree, is a certain cure for Winkwell. So I'm going to have a bit of a think in terms of how I get the knock that I need. Because, like, I can get powerful knock through... Oh, you know what? This is a lot easier than I thought. But I'm going to have to leave that for tomorrow. I should just read Julian Cosley's book. That'll get me the 5... No, actually, you know what? I can just do that today. So we'll use the metal. We will read... not volume 2. So that'll clear the last of the curses. And then what else? I can only really get one. Yeah, we'll just let the night run out. Actually, you know what? Here's my other option. We'll take Pyroglyphics. We'll move that up to the 3 spot right away. So if I take that, use the Ascendant Harmony, the Foresight, the Lesson, add Metal. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. I have just enough time that I can add the Mazarine Fife and Applebright Euphonies. And I should just be able to get the Ascendant Harmony before the end of the day. And then that saves me the trouble. It does mean, however, that I have another night of the Lesson of Many Facets. I'm going to have to read that sooner rather than later, I think. But yeah, I think after the Salon, I'm reasonably happy with where we're at. I think I could stand to have a few more persistent memories by this point. But on the other hand, we did complete 3 further stories in one go. We now have the Avenue of Inquiry, which I'm intrigued by. In fact, the other thing I'm curious... Okay, so it won't let me consider. That's kind of interesting itself. No, well, sorry, I don't usually consider memories, so that's actually not so interesting. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? But yeah, so with the hour, we're going to sit on the Lesson of Many Facets. We've got what we can from Mr. Kill. Currency is organized. We're doing well as far as Spintry are concerned, so no worries about that. We are in 13... Yeah, some of this stuff is just going to be overwritten. That's fine. So the remaining question for tomorrow really is, or tomorrow in game, what do I do with the Ragged Crossroads and the Ramsund? I will definitely read Deoris Book 2. That'll get me the last that I need for the Pyroglyphics. Actually, let me just make some notes of that. So priorities that I wrote down here. So I want to level up Pyroglyphics. I need to find a use for the many-faceted lesson. I need to level up skills, and then before the end of the season, I should prepare for the next Salon. And that one's actually going to be an interesting one, because the purpose for doing the Salons that I did, and there's no rule saying that I have to keep with the decisions that that I made earlier. But, so, in theory, we've got Schaller for the Secretary Salvant. We've got Arthur Moore for the Secretary Vigilant. We do not yet have a Secretary Enigmatic, and Madame Olympie Bichet could be Secretary Nunciant. So, if Schaller's position... Well, let's say... As a first approximation, we're looking for a Secretary Enigmatic and Treasurer. It may work differently, but I think I'll say that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, I don't know. We're getting closer to at least having bodies that we can put in place for the Lighthouse Institute. Whether or not I want to, I want to go with the options that I currently have is another question. But I think, again, the big thing for me right now, I wanted to, where I could, level up the different skills so that I can commit them to the Tree of Wisdoms. On my current list, I have, I believe, 3. So Spices and Savors, Drums and Dances, possibly Rhyme and Remembrance. That is committed, actually. Okay, so looks like just 2, but we will have Pyroglyphics. So yeah, we're kind of getting somewhere with this. Yeah, I don't know. I have kind of 2 competing priorities here because in one sense there's a couple that I can, if I level up the skill, I can go all the way to the top, but then there are some things like Foss that I actually need. I just need more Foss elements of the soul from. But that's something for me to worry about on the next stream. All right. I know I've been running out of steam for a little bit, so I think I will leave it all there. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let me just put this in here. 22nd. Tomorrow, I'm going to be recording some YouTube videos. I will be back on Monday with the same playthrough. And then, as far as I can tell, there shouldn't be any more interruptions, so I don't have any travel plans for the rest of the year. I believe the next holiday coming up in Canada would be Christmas, and Christmas is actually the one holiday where I do streams, and I'd like to continue that series. If anybody has a Christmas short story that they think would fit well, we did do A Christmas Carol, and I did do The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. So I'm interested in if anybody has any other Christmas stories that they'd like to hear. But yeah, I am tired, so I need to get my act together and not be tired. But yes, thank you everybody for watching. Let's see if there's anybody online. Thank you, Pro, for stopping by and putting up with me. I hope to get a chance to see you on your side before too long. Thank you for those of you that listen to the stories of the Scribblerist Club and Comparable. And what do we have here? We got a few people online. Let's send this off to Kilgore Trout, who is currently playing Edna and Harvey. Is it Harvey's New Eyes or Edna and Harvey The Breakout? And if nothing else, for those of you that don't know, Kilgore Trout is the name of a fictional author in Kurt Vonnegut's stories. So honestly, you should know that, and you should like anybody who has a reference for that. So that's my other argument. Anyways, have a good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you on Monday, and we will be doing some more Book of Hours both Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until the new year, at least, I think. We'll be streaming that long anyway. I gotta shut up and go to bed. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Enjoy Kilgore's channel.